Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream, this time out of Gameweek 11, and we do have an international break on the horizon, which I'll also cover, at least throughout that 2-week break. I will be doing content, especially when I'm back from my own vacation, but let's delve straight into the questions that you've posted in today's live chat, and yeah, just pretty much answer everything you need to know in this ultimate guide for Gameweek 11. And if you want to see a reaction stream, then let me know down the comment section below and also in the live chat as well. But essentially, we could do one today just after the kind of 5:30 p.m. game in the UK, and also taking place alongside the late kickoff. A bit of a watch-along, if you will. I did a bit of a mini watch-along in UCL Fantasy for the early kickoff there between Slavia Prague and Arsenal. But let's see what you lot think. Drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But I'm just going to get straight into your questions and afterwards go through some different graphics. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, hope you're doing well. Congrats on 37k subs during UCL stream. Thank you very much. I've got 3 questions. First one, who to start between Semenyo, Senesi, Xhaka? I would play Semenyo. And who to put first sub? Probably Senesi first sub. Second one, who to start between Pope and Dubravka? Not that confident either option. I think both of them will concede, but I would go for Nick Pope. Who to start between King, Voltemada, Truffert? That's a lot of questions, man. I can't lie, but I'm going to say Voltemada. Who's the best replacement for Kudus out of Bruno, Mbeumo, or Enzo? I would pick Mbeumo long term. I already have Sartan, Ndai, and Semenyo. So yeah, that question's covered. Sam says, hi, have 0 in the bank and 1 free transfer, 620 points, chasing #1 spot in my mini league, and I really want a Palace defender. My guy's #1 has a double up with his defense with Gay Munoz. Senesi to Lacroix worth it? I'll be honest, there isn't much between all those defenders, but the most exciting and the one with the highest ceiling is Munoz. He won't get DEFCON as regularly as Gay, Richards, or Lacroix, but he's also going to get more goal contributions. So, look, I personally go for Munoz, but I know why you're looking at Lacroix or something different, because you want to chase the points and find a way to claw up the gap. But I think Lacroix's decent. He is a bit frustrating to own as an FPL asset. He scored on Thursday, and in the Premier, he has come close multiple times. He has always underperformed his XG, like last season where it was over 3, and he gets some big opportunities from set pieces, but isn't able really to deliver consistently like a Gabriel. So yeah, I think Lacroix's decent. I just don't think he's a great option. Like, in hindsight, I would have gone for something a little bit different in that Crystal Palace defense. Eze for Marino and Lacroix for Brahim to a -4. Yeah, the -4. Look, I like Marino a lot, but it's just not worth that -4 hit. Yeah, easy, exactly that. Final game before the international break. João Pedro increasing in transfers. Well, it's typical, right? People chase points, and because he was blanking, and ultimately we want to get some points, people were selling in droves, and his price kept going down and down and down. It's 7.4 million now, but because of those fixtures against Wolves at home and Burnley away, and he got 9 points against Tottenham, which should have been more, everyone's changing their tune. Haaland captain risky, but he's a robot after all. Well, also Liverpool are a top team still, even though they have a lot of vulnerabilities this season. But yeah, I just don't really see a standout elsewhere. Someone who you can rely upon in terms of consistency and the high ceiling. That's the big shame about it. Teams to target this game week. I think this week is a bit of a difficult one because a lot of games could be draws or they're quite difficult to call. You'll see in my scoreline predictions very soon. I have shown them, of course, already in several of my videos, but I think West Ham will get a result against Burnley, so we'll see how that ages. But yeah, I think Burnley would be a team to target this week. The thing is with Leeds, for example, and Forest, I think that's going to be a cagey game. I'm not necessarily going to say target one of those teams, but generally speaking, those are clubs you would want to target when you've got better teams and players coming up against them, if you catch my drift. So this week, I'll be honest, it's quite difficult. Maybe Chelsea against Wolves. The Blues can be a bit inconsistent, though, as we saw against Sunderland. With Arsenal's clean sheet record so far, is 1 to 2 Arsenal defenders including goalkeeper a must to get more points. There are different ways of playing the game. There are some people without Haaland who are doing really well. Others might not have any Arsenal defender or just the one and still right up there. So my advice is to have 2. I think a triple up is viable, but the best has kind of gone past, in my opinion, in terms of clean sheet output, because it's Sunderland away, then after the international break, Arsenal play Tottenham at home, Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and then Chelsea away. That's a very tough week. And I think with the amount of injuries Arsenal are getting, it's going to be difficult to sustain this level, even though they've got the squad depth in terms of quality and quantity. So, Yeah, it's a long season. Nothing's won yet. And ultimately with Arsenal, they can set an all-time clean sheet record today. But I think 2 is probably the sweet spot. You don't need 3. And for those that have 1, it's not the end of the world. I think there is definitely a case to say that the best has gone by in terms of clean sheet output. Grandpa says there was a game show called 15 to 1. At least their questions were all different. Dylan has to contend with 10,000 to 1 of the same question. That is FPL for you, to be fair. And I know some people join late. I understand that. But yeah, let me not get into that. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. Dylan, it's time to do a top 10. I've already answered that question on screen graphic. That is a very good idea. If I ever do like a Q&A sort of thing, like frequently asked questions. Yeah, that's a great name. I've already answered that question. My only question, I'm thinking of replacing Gyökeres and Merino. Already have Haaland and Mateta 9.6. Well, the problem with that is you need to also bring in a forward, and I think Mateta obviously is the standout, but you've got him already. And then you look at the others. Joao Pedro is a short-term punt. I just don't really like him longer term. Not to say that he's a bad option, but I think Joao Pedro is basically a hold until Gameweek 13, then a sell from that point onwards. I still like Nick Voltemada, but I wouldn't necessarily buy him in this week against Brentford. I think that's another potential cagey game. So, yeah, I'm just wondering who you're selling in the midfield to get Merino, and who would you buy for Gyökeres? Because if you didn't have Mateta, that'd be such a simple move, and I would recommend that. I like Jared Bowen this week against Burnley, but he has never scored against them, if I'm not mistaken, which is quite surprising. So, yeah, difficult one to say, but as I said, you can't do Gyökeres to Merino in one move since they have different positions in FPL. Okay, yeah, thanks for letting me know. I don't know why the comments aren't showing on screen, which is a bit annoying because everything was working before I set it up. So yeah, it should work now, but yeah, we'll see. Morning, bro. Best of luck this week. Love FPL, but I'm bored of Captain Haaland. I've said the same thing. It's very annoying and also boring, to be honest with you. I like it when there's a bit of variety, when you've got multiple premiums and they might all haul. You might even get 2 out of 4 blanks, but at least you get like a bit of unpredictability in the game. But right now, it's a different story. Yeah, welcome, Ahmed. Good to see you. Gabriel Rice of Ultimate captain. I wouldn't captain a Newcastle player against Brentford away. Now, they've got a great record against the Bees, but yeah, Voltemade has been in kind of shaky form recently. Subbed off at half-time against West Ham. Didn't really do anything against Athletic Bilbao. So from those 3 players, it's probably going to be Gabriel, in my opinion. He's also my top 10 list, which you'll see later on. We don't know, Easy. We simply don't know. Gary O'Neill will not be the manager. I can tell you that for sure. But yeah, they're going through the list. I think, is it Rob Edwards, who was at Luton Town before? He's currently at Middlesbrough. He's one of the favourites, but I'm not sure that's a good decision. But we'll see what happens. Should I sell Semenyo or Ndai to Enzo? If yes, then who? I personally would keep those players, but if you had to sell one this week, it's probably Semenyo. The problem is he's got great fixtures afterwards, and he's still very template, so any returns will hurt you. I'm not saying that you should base your decisions off that, but people do factor that sort of thing into their thinking in terms of EO. But yeah, I would keep those players. I don't think they're sellable. YouTube new feature, name of the channel is up and logo channel is down. Yeah, they keep changing a few things here and there. I'll have to see it for myself. Bench one of Semenyo and Dai Sart of Ultimada. Yeah, very difficult one there. I've got a similar situation. If I were to buy Merino this week, I would have to bench one of those players. So that's something I might even think about, but I'll be honest, I might go for Voltemada here. Hey mate, Senesi, Minter, Van der Ven, Anderson and Reinders, 2 to start. Probably, is that Joachim Anderson? I would start Minter and not Van der Ven against United, in my opinion, even though Spurs have a great record against them. I'm probably going to say Joachim Anderson. Would you bench boost Dubravka, Richards, Diouf and King? Diouf looks decent on paper against Burnley at home. I mean, King hasn't done anything all season in terms of goal contributions. Dubravka's away to West Ham. Richards at home to Palace. Sorry, at home to Palace. That's his own bloody team. At home to Brighton. Yeah, it's a decent bench boost. I mean, my bench looked good on paper last week and it got like 5-6 points. It was horrendous. So there's never a guarantee, right? But one return is possible from that. And if you can get 10-15 points, that's decent. Anything more is a bonus. So I think that looks pretty good, but as I say to everyone who asks bench boost questions, the best thing you can do is go to a website like FPL.team, visualize your future game mix. That's all you can really do there, because then you can visualize how the fixtures would look like for your team, how many transfers you'd have, if you can bolster your bench boost in certain game mix, and I think that would give you a definitive answer, but it's a decent bench. I wouldn't mind playing it this week. Hamza says, is it worth doing Gvardiol on my bench to Munoz this week for a free transfer or just play Senesi instead? Yeah, I don't think Gvardiol is a must sell, but I would go to Munoz, yeah. Ahmed says, hi Dylan, good morning. My squad is Raya, Gay, Gabriel, Senesi, Semenyo, Indai, Sarr, Mbumo, Mateta, Joao Pedro, Haaland, Dubravka, Tavernier, Mukiele, Hume. Advice, I have 2 transfers, nothing in the bank. Well, I think the starting 11 looks good for this week. If I had to pick one weakness, it's probably Senesi, because I don't think Bournemouth will keep a clean sheet against Villa, but Senesi isn't a sell long-term necessarily, so I'm quite happy with that. I think the biggest issue of your squad is your defensive line, though, because you've got Mukiele and Hume. I'd be selling one of them and ideally upgrading to a more expensive defender, so you've got more versatility and flexibility in your squad. I don't like having 2 4 million defenders personally. That's just the way I kind of view the game. But that would require a downgrade elsewhere. Maybe something like Tavernier down to Xhaka could work, but that only gives you 0.4 million at this point. So it's not like a massive boost in funds. And there's no one else that I'd necessarily say you have to sell. I think over the coming weeks, you could do Joao Pedro to Thiago, Welbeck, and one of those budget 4s I've talked about. But that's something for Gameweek 13. You're not going to sell Joao Pedro now. I mean, some people will. That's up to you. Play the game the way you want to, but yeah, I think that is the weakest part of your team, having Mukiele and Hume. And if I had to pick, I would sell Hume, to be honest with you. But for this week, I think Roll, it'll be a very good thing for you to get multiple free transfers at your disposal. So even if you have the wildcard to use in Gameweek 12 or 13, just having 2 or 3 available moves can be very important to you. So definitely Roll this week and try to upgrade your defensive line by downgrading somebody like Joao Pedro in Gameweek 13 or 14. I already have Raya and Gabriel. Should I buy Timber and triple up on the Arsenal defense? So you probably put this question before I said it, but in my opinion, a double up is probably just about fine. It's the sweet spot. I think tripling up is probably a little bit too late, personally. That's the way I see it. I expect a reduction in clean sheets for Arsenal. I have gone for a 2-0 this weekend, but I think there will be a few goals conceded against Bayern Munich in the Champions League and potentially one of Chelsea or Tottenham, maybe even both, but hopefully that isn't the case. I'll show you all my lineup predictions very soon. I didn't make a video this week, but all the main content was posted. Semenyo or Minter, considering the midweek rest? It's still going to be Semenyo for me. Look, if you've got a triple up in Arsenal defensively, it's fine to go for it. And I think Sunderland could score a goal. There's no denying that. They're at home. They've been very solid, unbeaten at the Stadium of Light. So, look, Arsenal aren't going to have it easy, especially with their injuries, but I still back them to win the game. They have to in a week where they can pull away from Man City and Liverpool in the title race. So, yeah, I think if you've got a triple up, there aren't really too many reasons to go against it. But conversely, I wouldn't even mind just starting 2 of those defenders and benching the other one. Like, that's the way I look at it. And I've said this repeatedly. I don't like having 3 defender slots out of 5 on one team, as good as Arsenal are. So if I were ever to triple up on a team defensively, like Arsenal, it would be Raya in goal with Gabriel and probably Timber. Start Gay, Anderson or Senesi. Yeah, not much in it between those 3, but I would lean towards Gay. Now, that's a difficult one because Crystal Palace Brighton is a very, well, it's a derby, right? And anything can happen there. But I think with most of these Palace and even Brighton assets to a certain extent, mainly their attackers, I would start. Who should I take out? Gakpo, Ndai, Caicedo or Enzo? I want to take out Gyökeres and bring in Saka or Sarr. Any advice? Well, Sarr offers better value than Saka, but both of them have been disappointing this season. There's no denying that. Out of those players, I think Gakpo's the worst. Even though Liverpool have a nice fixture swing coming soon, I wouldn't be surprised to see Wirtz play in that left position again, so Gakpo's on the bench. Like, that would not surprise me. It's something I was thinking about when making these graphics very late on today, before going sleep. So, yeah, Gakpo's the one that I'd sell. And out of Saka or Sarr, I do like both of them, and I think Saka will punish sellers, but if we're looking a bit longer term and also considering value, I do prefer Ismaila Sarr. Gonna go Bowen. He loves scoring against relegation promoted teams. True. But as I mentioned before, it's quite surprising he has never scored against Burnley, but there's always a first time for everything, like Mateta scoring against Brentford, I believe, very recently. Is Kudus a necessary sell? He is a doubt to play Man United. I think he will be available though. But best replacements, I've covered this a lot in my videos, so I'd be looking at one of Ismaila Sarr, Ndai, Enzo Fernandez, Declan Rice. They're all up there in terms of that sort of price tag. Yeah, bench boosts, I covered that, Jack. Maybe if it's not your team, it's something identical. I think Rodon might be the only change. It's an okay bench boost. I'm not a massive fan, to be honest with you. But once again, go to FPL.team, visualize future game weeks. But yeah, one return will be enough, and then it's a decent bench boost. I wish I had one when I played it last week, but yeah, I'm just not entirely sure. Let me put it that way. Metap says, hey Dylan, good to see you. Would you do Enzo or Ndai to Rice or Sarr for a -4? No. Also start one, Burn, Anderson or Senesi. Good luck this week. Likewise, difficult question to answer, but if I had to pick one, it's probably Joachim Anderson, actually. Inbred Pancake, what a name, says, thoughts on Sesko? He has more shots per 90 than Thiago, Voltemada, Welbeck. Seems involved in the build-up more than some of the others and seems to be in some decent positions. Minutes worry? Yes, and we saw that against Liverpool. When everyone's fit, they played Mason Mount and Cunha up front. They also had Harry Maguire. Of course, they had to make a few changes recently because of knocks and injuries, but I'm sorry, even if Sesko has more shots than Erling Haaland or Mateta, which obviously isn't the case, yeah, I need to see some consistency there in terms of minutes and performances. I think Sesko's way too raw. He's got 2 goals, 1 assist in all competitions this season. He has potential, there's no denying that, but yeah, as an FPL asset, I think all of those players you mentioned are far better than Sesko. So just a no from me. If you are feeling it though, back your gut. From my perspective, the best United assets are Mbumo and Fernandez, and the rest, I think, are on a void for now. Maybe I'll do a captaincy poll. No guarantees, though. And unfortunately, Erling Haaland will be the default for most people. But hopefully that can change at some point. Thanks, Dylan. Selling Zubimendi. Yeah, quality player, but not really an FPL asset. He had a great start to the season, though, in terms of points. Obviously, those 2 goals against Forest helped. But yeah, Zubimendi will be crucial to Arsenal, but I would avoid an FPL. Hey, man. Ndai to Enzo or Voltemada to Joao Pedro if you had to choose. I'm not so sure about that. Maybe Voltemada to Joao Pedro just for 2 weeks and then go back, or maybe invest in Mateta by Gameweek 13-14. Yeah, Ndai, Enzo, I'm not so sure about that. So, yeah, probably Voltemada to Joao Pedro for the next 2, but even that is a bit of a weird one. Hi, Dylan, I have Mark Guy on my bench and I want a bench boost. Should I buy Kruppi Jr.? Got 0.8 in the bank. Well, Vanessa has been available now for the past week, and there is a chance he starts. I believe Kruppi Jr. will get the nod again, but this isn't really a secure long-term transfer. But I have said this before, if I had to pick one budget forward, it would be Kruppi Jr. over Mark Guy. Despite the difference in price tag, obviously Guy is a great enabler in terms of his price tag, but yeah, I think that's a decent shout. I'd probably go for it, especially if you got a solid bench this week and 15-man squad. Buy Caicedo or Sarr? I prefer Sarr. Caicedo or Enzo? Enzo has the highest ceiling. He's also on penalties whilst Palmer is out, and that's a bit debatable, you could say, with Joao Pedro in the mix, but yeah, Caicedo is very consistent with Defcon, so not an easy one to answer. He's also cheaper, but if I had to buy one now and I had the funds, I'd still lean towards Enzo, mainly for the next 2, but then against Arsenal, for example, in Gameweek 13, yeah, fixtures like that don't appeal to me. Richards or Senesi? This week it would be Richards. Rangers from Marino? I've got enough money to do that, and if I had to make one move this week before wildcarding in 12 or 13, I think Marino's the perfect punt. My issue is I need to bench one of Voltemada, Joao Pedro, Sarr, Ndai, Semenyo, and Fernandez. That is the problem, but yes, if you can upgrade your midfield that way, just for 1 week, I think Marino is the perfect 1 week punt, playing up front against Sunderland, off the back of a brace against Slavia Prague, but If you need someone for the long term, Marino's not the answer. Because after the international break, the hope is that Gyökeres, Martinelli will be back. The same goes for other key players like Madueke, eventually Kai Havertz, and Gabriel Jesus has been in training for the last couple of days, which is a boost for Arsenal. But yeah, for game week 11, I think Marino's a great punt. Delap or Joao Pedro if risking Chelsea? Joao Pedro still. Welcome, Seb. Good to see you. Hi, Dylan. Please help. Bench 1. Yeah, Semenyo's included in a lot of these. If I had to bench 1, it's probably Minter. Thank you, Anthony. Keep it up, Dylan. Good content. Burn or Senesi, or maybe Anthony in the midfield to start. I'd take a punt on Anthony. Now, I don't want to, ruin the mood or anything, but there is a chance all three of them do blank, but I think Jadon Anthony has the highest ceiling this week, but we'll see how it pans out. Bench 2 out of Reinders, Voltemada, Rodon, and Gvardiol. I would bench Reinders and Gvardiol. Bench Senesi or Lacroix? I'd bench Senesi. Hi, Dylan. Should I do Gakpo to Mbuma for a -4? I think long term it pays off. So, whilst it's not ideal, I might lean towards yes. Best 5.7 million midfielder. It's probably going to be Xhaka still. Because the rest, like Caicedo, Minter, and obviously the Sars, Enzos, and Rices are all far above that price tag. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with Xhaka for now. Hey, Dylan, Kudus and Goodmanson out for Tavernier, Senesi, or Minter Truffert? Not a massive fan of Tavernier. I think he's been decent this season, but I wouldn't necessarily go for him. I do like Senesi, though. And Truffert is okay. I don't think it's an amazing option. What separates the two is obviously Senesi's DEFCON and also some bonus points. He can get some goals and assists from set pieces. Truffert offers a bit of assist threat from open play, but not enough, really. As a duo, though, I would probably go for Mint and Truffert. The top 5 rank in FPL all have Declan Rice, and 4 of them have Rice and Caicedo. How unexpected is that? Will this continue? That's a good question. Will this continue? Well, Rice and Caicedo are 2 of the best midfielders in the Premier League. Rice has been getting a good number of goals and assists since joining Arsenal. So that isn't a huge surprise. I think with the new system with DEFCON, Caicedo was always poised to do fairly well, but I think he is surpassing expectations with the goals he is scoring as well. But I think it will continue, but not at the same rate, particularly in the case of Caicedo, which I've said before. But obviously that assist and scoring DEFCON against Tottenham resulted in that 10-pointer. But we're going to see that, I think, less often. But that doesn't mean he's a bad asset. He is still worth 6 million, that's for sure. And next season, he'll probably be 7 to 8 million in FPL. But yeah, it goes to show you, right? Of course, those near the top are, going in early on certain players and they're making great decisions. But it's going to be a long season. Learned a harsh lesson last game week. Losing my core cost me a lot. Would have had 100+ points if I kept my head and stuck to the plan. I wonder what you did to have that sort of swing. And I wonder what you did to deviate away from that plan. List of players of AFCON every team. That's a bit too long, mate. But the main FPL assets would be Brian Mbeumo, Mohamed Salah, obviously, Ndai. As I've mentioned before, Ghana didn't qualify, so the likes of Semenyo and Kudus will stay with their clubs during AFCON. -4 Kudus to Caicedo. No, not for a -4. I think Kudus could start as well. Hi, Dylan. Start 2 of Voltemada, Semenyo, and Bruno. I don't like benching any of them, but probably Voltemada. I prefer Mbeumo, but Bruno is still decent. Dylan, to keep Liverpool assets or sell for the future game mix? It really depends on who they are. Obviously, you mentioned Van Dijk and Gakpo. I'd be more keen on keeping Van Dijk, who is 5.9 million now. He went down in price overnight. With Gakpo, I'm more keen to sell, and I did that a few weeks ago. I have Raya, Rice, and Timber, but really want Gabriel. Should I transfer out Timber or just be okay with what I have? Well, if you're happy with the rest of your squad and you can do this for free, then yes, I'd go to Gabriel, but Timber is still a decent option. Sarr or Caicedo? Sarr. Should I start Xhaka this week or drop him for a cheap defender like Rodon or Anderson? I'd drop him. I think Xhaka could get DEFCON against Arsenal, but yeah, the ceiling might be lower than the other 2. Are O'Reilly and Cherky Man City options? Well, O'Reilly was recently benched quite frequently, so I can never really trust Pep, to be honest. And I always say this, if you buy a City player other than Haaland, be aware of the risk attached. And, you know, if he starts benching them, don't complain. You know, you kind of sign the contract when you buy these players. I'm more keen on Cherki as a fifth midfielder, possibly even fourth, because of the price tag and his efficiency. Even off the bench, Cherki can salvage some goal contributions, which is very important. We've seen that time after time again in the Carabao Cup, the Champions League, and even in the Premier League as well. So if I had to pick one, it would be Cherki. Should I bench Gay or Van de Ven or Senesi? I would bench Van de Ven. Play Gay or Minter? Gay. Well, if you have Mateta, you pretty much always start him. Even in fixtures like Arsenal away, that's where you could definitely consider benching him, but otherwise, I think Mateta is basically a start whenever you can. Free transfers, what to do? Yeah, decent squad for this week, but Gordon probably won't start. I think it'll be Barnes. So Gordon is a sell. He has been awful in FPL, so he is the big priority. Yeah, no Gabriel, but you do have Calafiori and Raya, and you've got Saka. Yeah, interesting. I don't like Gavardio this week, to be honest with you. But you might be keen on keeping him long term. I think Van Dijk is a better premium. Same with Munoz. Obviously, Gabriel's the best of them all, but that would require selling another Arsenal player like Calafiori. So, yeah, I'd just focus on Gordon for now and have free transfers after the international break. So going to one of Enzo Fernandez, you can't go to Declan Rice, obviously, with a triple up in Arsenal, but he's an option for you to consider long term. Yeah, I think one of Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Indai would be very good options to replace Gordon. And I don't know what money you have in the bank, but another one would be Mbeumo. If you have enough money, I think Gordon to Mbeumo looks very promising. Reinders and Bruno to Sa and Enzo. I'm not entirely sure about that. I mean, selling Reinders, great idea. I'm on board with that. I wish I sold him earlier, but yeah, selling Bruno, I'm a bit iffy about. But overall, as a duo, I do prefer Sa and Enzo, so I'd lean towards yes. Best captain for this week, unfortunately, is Haaland. I hate to say that, but you'll see my captaincy list very soon. Voltemada, Senesi, Tarkovsky worth a bench boost this week. That's a decent bench. I'd probably go for it. Bench Senesi or Anderson? I would bench Senesi. If you had Mateta, you're going to captain him? No, but he is in my top 5 captaincy options. Should I start Xhaka over cheap defender? Covered. Start Van Dijk or Rodon? I would start Rodon. Start Senesi or Rodon? Probably Rodon. Yeah, as Safar says, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. The aim by the end of the stream is to get to over 150 likes and also make more strides towards 38k on YouTube. So just as a reminder, because some people are asking questions that I've already answered, they're not going to be answered again, just for the sake of repetition and stuff, to keep things moving and answering different questions and covering more people. J Braz says, hi Dylan, I'm willing to take a -4, have 1 free transfer and 0 in the bank. Who to change? I have Dubravka, Vicario, Gabriel, Timber, Richard, Senesi, Van de Ven, Saka, Semenyo, Enzo, Reinders, BF. Welbeck, Haaland, and Mark Guiu. Who's BF? I'm probably bugging out here. Oh, Bruno Fernandes. I'm guessing people do this because of the character limit on YouTube, which is fair enough, but I had to think of that one. Yeah. So, I know Vicario's been good, but I think long-term, I'd try to get to Raya if he can. But then again, you've got Gabriel and Timber already, and you've got Saka, so when you look at it from that perspective, do you need to change the goalkeeper? Spurs are near the bottom of the FDR. So yeah, that maybe could wait a little bit. Mark Guiu is basically just an enabler. I get that, but you've also got Reinders, which is a big problem. So nothing in the bank. What I would consider, though, since you've got Gabriel, Timber, Richard, Senesi, and Van de Ven, you could go to a cheap defender, even if it's someone to just bench and be an enabler. I wouldn't mind doing something like Van de Ven to a cheap option at 4.2 or below, like Mukiele, and then using those funds to do Reinders to... Marino would be the short-term punt, But if you want someone a bit longer term, yeah, that would require, I'd say, someone at 6.5 to 6.8 million, like Ismail Assar. But that also requires another move elsewhere. But essentially what I would do is downgrade one of your defenders, probably Van der Ven, to a really cheap option who still plays. I'd still recommend that. So a Leeds, Burnley, or Sunderland defender. And my preference is still Sunderland despite their fixtures, just looking a bit longer term. And then upgrade Rangers. I think that's the best thing you can do. Hi Dylan, thoughts on my team? Pope, Gabriel, Gay, Senesi, Saka, Semenyo, Minter, Sarr, Mateta, Joao Pedro, Haaland, Reinders, Rodon, Alderete, Dubravka on the bench with free transfers. Yeah, once again with this one, I don't see a need to make a transfer now. You could actually roll, but if we're looking at this week only, I think Senesi is the weak link. Like, he's the one I look at and think he's the most likely to blank. We'll see how that ages as well. But, yeah, overall looks good. You do have a clash between Mint and Gay, but they can still get a return in the same match. Mint is actually quite underrated for DEFCON, as we saw at the beginning of the season, but yeah. In terms of sells, Alderete is still out. Sunderland have poor fixtures, so you could consider him. And also, as I keep saying to people with 4 million or really cheap defenders, yeah, having Rodon and Alderete, I try to improve that if you can. So, yeah, over the coming weeks, I would upgrade the Paraguayan to, I mean, I don't know what money you've got in the bank, but ideally to a more expensive defender. So, yeah, that is the thing that stands out to me, and Reinders is another obvious one. But to upgrade both of them to more expensive options, you will need to downgrade somebody else. That's the problem here. Even something like Minter to Xhaka could work for you, although I'm not that keen on that sort of move. So, difficult one. But, yeah, Reinders and Alderete are the ones to sell. No, Rye's not the most expensive goalkeeper in FPL history. We've had Alisson and Edison at 6 million in the past, and at some stage they would have gone up to higher than that. Need to play 3 out of these 5. Van Dijk, Van der Ven, Senesi, Gay, Gabriel. Yeah, Gabriel shouldn't be included in this conversation. That's the way I see it. So Gabriel starts, same with Gay, and I would probably go for, I'm going to say Senesi. Not really easy. Like I said, I feel like it was a good decision, bad outcome. So I'm not going to look back and say I shouldn't have played it. I thought the fixtures were good. I think Reinders being benched obviously changed things. And then a few days later, he gets 2 assists. So these things can happen. As for the wildcard game at 12 or 13, that's the plan. I'm not going to deviate away from that, I believe. Start Sesko or Mateta. Mateta's a far better striker and option. So Mateta. Play Szoboszlai or Rodon. Szoboszlai's been brilliant this season, but I'm going to say Rodon. Alex says, morning, mate. Hope you're feeling well. Start one of Rodon, Richards, and Virgil. Probably Richards. Gabriel and Munoz. Oh, locked in my backline at the minute. In that case, I'd probably diversify it a little bit and start Rodon. Hi, Dylan. Hope you're well. I'm not sure on Minter or Stack. I prefer Minter. Stack might not even start. I've got him in my predicted 11, but it's between him and Tanaka for that final midfield position. This week, I'd pick Burn, but there's not much in it. And just to reiterate, it is on screen, but this is Dogbead wins question, and he compares him to Senesi. Hi, Dylan. Is this a good bench boost? Yes, I'm just wondering who you got in your starting 11 to bench Semenyo and players like that. But yeah, on paper, it looks good. Senesi, Richards, Van der Ven, Rodon, start 2. Yeah, Richards and Rodon. Voltamada and Xhaka to mark Guiu and Mbeumo for 2 free transfers this week. I don't like Guiu, but I understand why you're doing it. Essentially, it's just a cash cow to get Mbeumo. I'm still not entirely sure about that. As a duo, Voltamada Xhaka is better. So if you are struggling for squad depth, or you've got budget options already, like 4 million defenders, maybe you've got like King, then I would definitely avoid this. Gakpo or Krupi Jr. this week? Krupi Jr. Would you bench boost Dubravka, Goodmanson, Senesi, and Thiago? Probably. Who should I bench? Ndai, Enzo, Bruno, or Semenyo? I don't like that. I think they're all players you want to start. But if I had to pick one, it's probably going to be Semenyo on the bench. Rice or Saka? At this moment in time, it's Rice in terms of value. Now, who do I think will score more points this week? It's going to be Saka, but there's also a 3 million difference almost, or yeah, 3.2 million, 3.3. Yeah, I think Rice long term is the better option as things stand. I want to sell Joao Pedro, but I'm a Chelsea fan. Well, it's your prerogative, right? I don't think Joao Pedro is a sell against Wolves at home and Burnley away, but he is a bit of a weird player. Like, would it surprise me if he blanked against those teams and then did well in the tougher games afterwards? No, not really. But he is still a sell by Gameweek 13. Yeah, I think Calafrio will start. Richards to Munoz worth a transfer. Look, so any question like this about should I sell this defender to another defender from the same team, and yes, Munoz has higher upside, I would only do that in a situation where you're happy with the rest of your squad, you're quite solid in terms of free transfers, this won't impact your future moves. Let's not forget we've got an international break, many people will wildcard in Game Week 12 or 13, so try not to disadvantage yourself with a luxury transfer. That's the way I would look at it, and ultimately both of them got 6 points in the last game week. But yes, if you're in a strong position and it won't impact your future moves, I would make that upgrade. Xhaka, Senesi, Rodon bench order. I'd put Xhaka last, Rodon first, Senesi second. Hi Dylan, can you discuss the upside of not captaining Haaland this week? The biggest upside is that it's actually something interesting, and you know, you're going against the template. I have said in the last couple of weeks there is an opportunity to go against Haaland, and this might be the week now, since apart from Villa away, he has been returning in virtually every single game week this season. So only 2 blanks in the Premier League this season. But yeah, I think the problem I've got is the lack of alternatives who are consistent and reliable, who have that high ceiling. You know, in previous years we had Salah, we had Palmer, Bukayo Saka, even Watkins. Now it's basically just Haaland who is consistent. But yeah, you look at the other options, I'd be keen on Mateta potentially. He's the highest. I think it's between him and Joao Pedro as the highest options in my captaincy list, but I'll talk about that very soon. I just don't think those two, particularly Joao Pedro, are consistent enough to really challenge Erling Haaland. Captain Saka over Haaland, it's up to you, mate. Saka's in my top 5. I'm not so sure, though, because he has been quite poor in terms of goals and assists since returning from injury back in March. This season more fun for FPL? Debatable. I mean, DEFCON is definitely a really good introduction. And look, I've been doing well in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, I think if we had more premiums doing their thing, yeah, FPL would be very enjoyable. But I think that kind of detracts from the experience at the moment. Start Voltemada or Semenyo? Semenyo. I'm not sure it depends on each cup. You got to check the league and also the cups. It will tell you on the website and the app when each one starts. Senesi or Lacroix to start? Lacroix, as covered earlier. Hi Dylan, would you start Ekitike over Eze? I would probably still start Eze, but that's up to you. Last week I went Saka over Haaland and it killed my rank big time, but tempting to do it again? Is this crazy to do? Well, I get why you did it, but the reason why I just went for Haaland captain against Bournemouth is because Mateta scored a hat-trick against them and could have scored more. And if he can do that, then Erling Haaland could certainly do something similar. And yeah, with Bukayo Saka, he missed some big chances. Gyökeres fed him through a few times. He really should have done better, Bukayo Saka. But yeah, I think he can step up against Sunderland, Tottenham and Chelsea coming up next. Also Bayern Munich. Yeah, the hope for Arsenal really is keeping these players fit and also getting these injured players back. But yeah, between Saka and Haaland, unfortunately, it's still Erling Haaland for me. Frono says 2 free transfers, Gyökeres to Guiu, Donnarumma to Raya, or stack to Mbumo, Sarr, Enzo. I don't have double Arsenal defence, I have Saka. Yeah, a lot of people are mentioning buying Guiu, and I get it, it's a budget thing, right? But yeah, if you're just happy to have that sort of, you know, permanent third player on your bench, just ensure you don't also have like 2 4 million defenders and stuff like that, because then I think your team will lack squad depth going into the Christmas period. But yeah, Donnarumma to Raya is a great move. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that is worth the transfer. And out of Mbumo, Sarr, Enzo, I like all of them, but I would probably pick Mbumo, especially if you got Mateta already. Took a -12 hit, transferring out many who returned for ones who didn't. I don't think that's a great way of... Well, I'm guessing you did this already. But yeah, points chasing, which is what it seems like, is never a great way to play this game sustainably. Start Gay or Senesi. Yeah, that's been covered to death, mate. Jay Braz, I covered your question as well. Thank you very much. Buy Mbeumo or Bruno? That's a good segue because I do have a stats comparison of those two players. Let's go into that first, and then I'm going to show you different screens. So here are the stats for both Bruno Fernandes and Mbeumo, bearing in mind that Fernandes is still on penalties. So 2 goals and 2 assists for the Portuguese international, and 4 goals and 1 assist for Bryan Mbeumo. 24 shots apiece, with 8 shots on target for Bruno and 13 for Mbeumo. But in terms of shots in the box, Mbeumo almost has double with 19 compared to Bruno's 12. The XG is in Fernandes' favour, but then again, he's had 2 penalties, or actually 3 penalties, and 2 of them he missed. The expected assist is 1.73, but Mbeumo's is 2.58. Very similar in terms of big chances and big chance created, but Mbeumo does lead both of them. And with key passes, unsurprisingly, Fernandes is basically top of the entire division, as he usually is. But overall, I think Mbeumo offers better value and more open play threat. So despite Bruno Fernandes having more set pieces, and bearing in mind Bryan Mbeumo is on corners, but he's not a Rice or Saka to get plenty of assists from those situations. But yeah, I think Bruno Fernandes, good option still. Very frustrating, but he has slowly gone about his business in the last 3 game weeks with 4 to 8 points in those matches. But I think Bryan Mbeumo has the highest ceiling, and he'll get more goals in this United team. He also won the Player of the Month award. So yeah, I think Fernandes, good option, but Mbeumo offers better value. Let me now show you the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating until Game Week 16. Chelsea are top, at least they're top of something. Fulham, Crystal Palace, Newcastle and Man United are in the top 5, with Liverpool and Arsenal just outside the upper echelons right now. In terms of the bottom 5, Sunderland, Leeds, Wolves, Spurs and Everton. But people are still buying Van de Ven. Play the game the way you want to. With predicted points, Haaland is top with 7.9. There's a massive gap between him and Jean-Philippe Mateta in second. Salah, Saka, Enzo Fernandez, Gabriel, João Pedro, Bruno Fernandes, Cucurella and Chalobah are in the top 10. So a lot of love there for the Chelsea assets. So this is my team at the moment. According to Fantasy Football Hub, they've got a good team rating and game week rating. They actually suggest no transfers this week and to just roll. But I want to see your thoughts in the live chat, because if I were to make one move, it would be Reinders for a one week punt to Mikel Merino, who will start up front for Arsenal against Sunderland today. And then I have a big decision to make. Who do I bench for Mikel Merino? And according to Fantasy Football Hub, well, I've got an error, so I don't know what's happening here. I'll probably have to restart this then. That's amazing. So let's do that again. Merino, make transfers, optimize team. So they say bench Voltemada. I could see that backfiring if I did something similar, but I do like Merino a lot this week. If you are wildcarding in 12, one of my favourite one-week punts is Mikel Merino, and I said something similar in UCL Fantasy when he got 16 points and the Player of the Match award, courtesy of his brace against Slavia Prague. Let me also show you the website livefpl.net, which you can also use to visualize future game weeks like fpl.team, but this time it's to visualize the potential changes in prices tonight. So we had a few price increases a few hours ago, like Ismail Assar, Mateta, Gay, and David Raya. But in terms of tonight, they are predicting Indai, James, Igor Thiago, Jurriën Timber, Rice, and Erling Haaland. In terms of price falls, not all of these will happen. They've gone for Cody Gakpo, Gordon, Guesson, Mudryk, Reed. Yeah, a lot of these are kind of irrelevant options, to be honest. Vicario, Hwang Hee-chan, Bernardo Silva. You've also got Diego Leon, Frimpong, Stones, Ward-Prowse, Kudus, who is a doubt to play against United today. Matson, Pape Matisar, Wanyeri, Milambo. But yeah, Esteve, McNeil, you kind of get it. A lot of these are not too important. But yeah, those who are projected to rise in price have a great chance of doing so tonight. So keep your eyes posted on this website. If I do a reaction stream later, and that always based on your feedback in today's stream with the likes, subscriptions, and also the hype, all that good stuff, then we can also cover the updates to the potential price changes. And if I were to do that stream tonight, I would hopefully try to record a transfer tips tomorrow, and I'll have that ready throughout the week for you. And once I'm back from my holiday, I'll be back fully at it with the FPL and UCL Fantasy content. Every single month, I give 10 memberships as well, which I did very recently, actually, in the UCL Fantasy Deadline stream, where we hit 37k on YouTube, and there are still more goals to attain in the future. I also put a poll out, and this is about my transfer plans now. So it's either roll or buy Merino for Rangers with a plan to wildcard in 12 or 13. And 56% of you have gone for Mikel Merino as the sort of solution, the 1 week punt to really just take advantage of his great forward play for the Gunners. So I already showed you a stats comparison of Bruno and Mbumo, so I'm going to skip that obviously. Let's now go to FPL.team where we can see what that website is suggesting. So in die, that should be removed now, right? The yellow flag. It is on the FPL website, so there you go. What I would consider there, as I mentioned, this is the big move I can make this week. And if we look at what they say in terms of expected points, let's go here. So Marino's not that high. In fact, he's lower than all of my attackers except Voltamada. But once again, just like Fantasy Football Hub, FPL.team suggests starting Marino over Nick Voltamada. And I've got exactly enough money to do Rangers to Marino. And remember, wildcard in 12 or 13, that is the plan anyway. And I would reshuffle a few things. So I'd probably go for Raya in goal. I would also do something like Munoz to cover Palace's defense. And a few key changes here and there. Bruno Fernandes to Mbumo. These might not seem like massive changes. You could definitely make a case that Game Week 12 is a bit premature in terms of doing that. But even if I decide to, save it until Game Week 13, for example, have João Pedro and Sanchez against Burnley away, yeah, I could bench Marino against Tottenham at home, for example, because you wouldn't expect him to start that game if the other Arsenal attackers are available. But let me know in the live chat, would you buy Marino for Rangers for a 1 week punt or roll the transfer? Because that is still very important after wildcarding to have that flexibility when it comes to your transfers. Let me now go to FPL Challenge, which I'll refer to after the deadline, especially if we hit a super chat goal and the stream goes on for even longer. So I've got Pickford in goal, Gabriel, Salah, and a front three of Haaland, João Pedro captain, and Mateta. But this week it is called Change the Game and it is double bonus points. Very, very simple stuff. It doesn't say it here, I think, does it? So it tells you how many players you can select, which is 6, and the unlimited budget. But if you wanted to do something like this and go for Raya and Gabriel, you get this message, too many players selected from Arsenal. So it doesn't say it, but you can only pick one player from a certain club. That is the maximum. And that's why I've gone for Jordan Pickford as just kind of default option. I'm not really that enthused about clean sheets this week in general. So yeah, that is my my squad, but it is subject to change if I remember to make some modifications to my FPL challenge team. I'm going to show you some different graphics, so you're not going to see highlighted messages in this section. I'm just going to go through all the kind of team news, injury updates, and things that I discussed throughout the week in this ultimate guide. Very soon you'll see the clean sheet odds, which are updated. There are actually, or there is a change to Arsenal's clean sheet odds. They have gone up since what I showed you. And I'll also convey the top 10 captains, which a lot of you have been highly requesting. Maybe you're looking for something different to Erling Haaland, who has been so boring. As you can see, my bench boost flopped, but I'm still quite happy with the week. 93 points, another massive green arrow, and a decent position considering the stage of the season we're at. My squad value is also not too shabby, but this is the big move I'm looking at. Rangers to Merino as a 1 week punt. Otherwise, I think rolling is in my best interest because Fernandes to Mbumo and Rangers to Caicedo for a -4, it just isn't worth it, in my opinion, especially the wild card being deployed very soon. So this is my provisional team selection without making any transfers. And if I were to buy Mikel Merino, the question is, who do I bench between Nick Voltamada, João Pedro, Bruno Fernandes, Sarr, Semenyo, and Ndai? With some question marks raised over Ndai and Sarr's fitness over the last couple of days, you could definitely say that bolstering the midfield is a great option, but they have been cleared over the last couple of days. So Ndai is no longer yellow flagged, and I said this from the beginning. David Moyes was quite clear after Monday night that it's not a serious injury, just cramps. So I was never too concerned about Ndai anyway, but I had some transfer plans in place just in case Ndai wasn't available, and ultimately that will not be necessary. Ndai's been one of my favourite options so far this season. There have been a few changes to the expected points, mainly with Ndai actually. So he was at 4 when he had the yellow flag. He is now up to 5.2 when it comes to predicted points for Game Week 11. Let's now go to this section. With my scoreline predictions, I made a few changes So with Tottenham United, a very difficult game to call. Despite Spurs having a great recent record against the Red Devils, I'm going for a 1-1 in the early kickoff. Everton 2, Fulham 1, West Ham 3, Burnley 2, Sunderland 0, Arsenal 2, Chelsea 3, Wolves 1, Aston Villa 2, Bournemouth 2, Brentford 1, Newcastle 1, Crystal Palace 2, Brighton 1, Nottingham Forest 1, Leeds 0, and Man City 2, Liverpool 2. So next up will be the highlighted player and also team weakness, and I'm focusing on Brighton at this moment in time and also a lot of the chances they concede from central areas, as you'll see in this graphic. So the heat map indicates Jean-Philippe Mateta's touches in the Premier League this season, whilst the blue circles indicate the chances conceded by Brighton in the Premier League from Gameweeks 1 to 10. And I think Mateta, with the amount of chances he gets and also those really impressive runs, I think he can exploit Brighton's weakness, because I know Van Heck and Dunk are quite decent defenders, but I think Mateta would have the better of them in many scenarios. So now are the updated clean sheet odds, and as I mentioned, Arsenal have seen an increase. Everyone else has stayed the same. In fact, Chelsea, there might have been a change to Wolves. I think they've now gone up to 12%. It's worth bearing that in mind, but Arsenal have 56%, by far the highest against Sunderland away. Chelsea, Everton, West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa are in the top 6 for the clean sheet odds. And as for the top 10 captains, you might be wondering, who can we actually go for instead of Erling Haaland? And this is the list I've come up with Jarrod Bowen in 10th, Fernandes and Mbeumo are in 9th and 8th respectively. Gabriel is 7th. I was actually keen on him against Burnley away. He was in my top 3 in last week's captaincy list. Joao Pedro just misses out on the top 5, which includes Jean-Philippe Mateta, Mikel Merino, Saka, Salah, and Erling Haaland at number 1. So essentially what I'm saying here is an Arsenal or Chelsea player would be an option. Even Enzo Fernandez is quite decent on paper, but his record against Wolves isn't particularly great. And apart from these Arsenal and Chelsea players, I think Mateta would be the standout. That's the way I look at the captaincy. I know for those with Salah, you might be tempted, but he's also been a bit underwhelming this season, to say the least. I'm being quite nice there, to be honest with you. So just an update that I kind of want to provide you. These are the players walking the tightrope in terms of suspensions. So if you get 5 yellow cards in the first 19 Premier League games of the season, you're going to get a 1-game ban. And by the way, ignore the rank and stuff you see here. That was from the week prior, so after Game Week 9. But Nico Williams, Garner, Tyler Adams and Lukic are on 4 yellow cards, 1 more, and they are suspended for a match. And you've got a lot of players on 3. That includes Munoz, Calafiori, Senesi, Jadon Anthony, Thiago, Grealish, Xhaka, Romero, Dan Burn, Paqueta. The list goes on and on. Follow All About FPL. They've got the full list on their tweet. Yeah, a lot of these players as well are included still. So, I have covered this before. It's very unlikely now that we're going to get this blank in 17 and the double in 16. So I always said to just wait for confirmation before making rash moves or committing to a certain strategy definitively. But I was still quite keen on saving the free hit just in case for that sort of period. But as Dale Johnson said a couple of weeks ago now, Crystal Palace will play 4 matches in 8 days. They did reschedule the Arsenal Crystal Palace game in the Carabao Cup to the 23rd of December, which is still on a Tuesday, but it's a week later than what was previously scheduled. And the latest update really in terms of this saga that we got. Okay, so I don't think this got updated. Okay. Yes, I think this didn't get updated because I did have, I think there were a few changes in terms of 4 and 3 yellow cards, but essentially Crystal Palace have asked Leeds United, they've asked the Premier League to move their game in the Premier League against Leeds United. So we're going to just wait and see what happens. I'll cover all the developments and see if that has any FPL impact, but I think the chances are still quite slim of a blank in 17 and a double in Game Week 16. It's worth mentioning that. But I'm going to go back to my FPL team, and yeah, I'll also put a poll out in the next couple of minutes whilst answering all your questions. Remember to drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We've got just under an hour left until the deadline, and if you want us to go on for even longer, then send in a super chat, show support to the channel. A big up to all the members, patrons, and also channel members. You're massively appreciated. The same goes for those that gift the memberships as well. But just bear in mind, any spamming, stuff like that, they will not be answered. Repeat questions may be skipped. Just did Rangers to start and Gyökeres to Guiu. Can do and die to Saka or Liverpool defender later. Good move. I like Saka, but I just don't see the need to sell and die. Differential captain Enzo or Mateta. I would go for Mateta. Hi Dylan, start Van Dijk or Rodon. Rodon. I had a plan set in place, by my impatience got the best of me. That's happened to a lot of us though, not just in FPL. That can be applied to many walks of life, but yeah, these things can happen. All we can do is learn from it. Sometimes we make a mistake, but in FPL you get some brutal swings sometimes, which is down to luck. Start Dubravka or Vicario. Probably Vicario. Hey Dylan, bench one of Ndai, Rice and Bruno. Reluctantly, it would be Declan Rice. Need to start one of Munoz, Bino or Semenyo. Currently starting Bino. That's a difficult one for me. I would actually put Bino bottom of that list. That's the way I see it. But yeah, I'm going to say Antoine Semenyo. Let me go through member questions first, then I'm going to go all the way to the back and answer in order of submission. Yeah. So that's the way it goes. Let's see. Sean says 1 goalkeeper and 2 defense, or 2 defense and 1 midfielder. Which is the best or must own Arsenal plaster? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's 2 defense and 1 midfielder. In my wildcard videos, I've discussed Raya, Gabriel, and one of Rice or Saka. So essentially it'd be 1 goalkeeper, 1 defender, and 1 midfielder. But out of these 2 that you mentioned, I would go for the second option. Hopefully you got that answer. So let's see what other member questions we've got. Thank you, by the way, to Punjabi for moderating the chat. I appreciate it. So Drigger says Bowen to Mateta and Kudus to Minter. I prefer Minter over Kudus, yeah, but I also think Mateta's superior to Bowen. Not just for this week, but long term. It is a bit awkward, though, to sell Bowen now when he's facing Burnley at home. That's my only concern. But overall, as a duo, I think it's certainly worth it. And you might need to downgrade Kudus to Minter to give you a few extra million to then do Bowen to Mateta, because he is now 8 million in FPL. But overall, I'd say yes. Just bear in mind the timing is a bit awkward. Yeah, that is true. I do have the predicted lineups ready. So I will go through that very, very soon. But let me just go through a few questions since they've been building up. But thank you for reminding me. I will try to show you that as soon as possible. Akash says, is it a good game week to bench boost? It depends on the bench. Obviously, you've put your one here. It's pretty good because of Enzo alone. 1 or 2 returns would be very good. So, yeah. Ultimately, I'd probably lean towards yes. As always, with any bench boost questions, go to fpl.team, livefpl.net, visualize future game weeks, and then compare them in terms of the fixtures. Would you play Keane or Joachim Andersen? It's a close one. Very difficult game to predict. I've leaned towards an Everton win. And originally I went for a 1-1. So, look, very close one. I think in terms of DEFCON, Keane was an absolute monster against Sunderland a few days ago. But Anderson has been very consistent with them. I'm still going to say Keane, but very close. It can go either way. As covered before, easy, no, is the answer to your question. Senesi, Rodon, Richards, or Van der Ven play 2? I would bench Van der Ven. I would not be bringing in Sels. I think that is a mistake. He's got a good fixture on paper this week, but there's no guaranteed clean sheet. I've gone for 1-0 Forest, but I don't think it's worth bringing him in until we see, you know, reliability, consistency in that Forest defense. The only goalkeeper I'd buy right now is Raya. Hey Dylan, is this a good bench boost? Yes, as covered earlier. So a lot of these I've already covered. Senesi or Konsa to Gabriel? I'd rather sell Konsa. Yeah, all good. Home sweet home. My plan is the wildcard in 12 or 13. So yeah, out of those options, Frono, I like all of them. But yeah, Gyökeres to Guiu would be the least appealing. I'm guessing you need to do that to upgrade stack to one of Mbumo, Sarr, Enzo. But yeah, Donnarumma to Raya, if you can just do that for free, is my preference, to be honest. Best defender to bring in this week, I have Gabriel, Senesi, Bodro, Anderson, and Dorgu, and want to play bench boost. I have 2.4 in the bank and wildcard, so is it going to be a short-term punt? Best defender. Well, if it's a short-term punt, then Reece James would be up there for me, but there is a chance he is benched this weekend after getting the start against Karabag, and he played very poorly, by the way, just saying. Probably a Chelsea defender, like Cucurella, Gusto. You could go for Reece James, but I'm less convinced about him. I have Donnarumma, Van der Ven, Caicedo, and Senesi on the bench. Should I bench boost? I'd say yes. Hey, good morning. Start Anderson or Van der Ven. Anderson. Bournemouth is a good matchup against Villa, I think. Yeah, I've gone for 2-2. I think it'll be quite high scoring. Thank you, like the stream, and I'm logging off before I make any bad decisions. Fair enough, Bacon. I appreciate it. Best striker, low ownership in FPL to buy. Igor Thiago because of his price tag. Start Senesi or Xhaka. Senesi. Hi, Dylan. It's been a while since I logged in. I bought in Marino. I'm very tempted to do that as well, actually. So Rangers. Let me just do this here. This poll. And very soon I'll show you my predicted lineups for all 20 Premier League teams. Okay. Bench headache. And the other one is roll the transfer. With okay, so those are my transfer plans in the poll. Just for those that missed the team selection video or the graphic that I showed you earlier and stuff like that, it's all there in the poll. And very soon I'll be locking in my final squad, so either rolling or buying Mikel Merino as part of a 1-week punt. But it does require benching a decent player this week, as I mentioned, and probably Voltemade is the one I'd pick. If I decide to buy Merino, I will put a poll out about the benching headache and seeing who, is the best one to leave out from the starting 11. But drop a like. Let's get this stream to over 150 likes overall and close in towards new goals like 38k, which will be the aim by next month. So by the end of the year, essentially, 38k is going to be our next big target. And then going into early 2026, 40,000 will be the next big milestone overall. And it's all thanks to your support. A big shout out to the members, patrons, as always, subscribers, those that have been there from the beginning. And yeah, it's friends and family who tuned in when I had 5-10 subscribers basically. So big up to everyone. Let's go for some questions for a few minutes, and then the predicted lineups are coming right up. No, I'm not so sure about having Sal on the wild card. We haven't even seen him return in the last couple of weeks. Well, at least in the Champions League against Real Madrid. He did get 6 points against Brentford, 10 against Aston Villa. It was a gift by Emi Martinez. To be fair, Salah did play well, but not enough consistency yet for me to really advocate for Salah on the wild card. If he does return big against City, then I might be swayed a little bit. DCL starts, I'm not so sure. I think it might be Nemecha. Calvert-Lewin does have an injury at the moment. Yeah, I would start DCL just in case, but I'm not sure if he will get the nod. Well, why is no one talking about Isak? Because he's got 0 Premier League goals. He's been absolutely awful in terms of overall performances, and Arne Slot's comments aren't exactly too encouraging. He's basically saying that he needs to build up again, and that we need to forget what Arne Slot said about Isak and about him being ready, and we can judge him now. So, yeah, Ekitike will be first choice. Liverpool could even do something a bit different today, as they did against City last season, and playing, 2 false nines, and Florian Wirtz and Gakpo play together alongside Salah with Ekitike on the bench. But yeah, I just don't think Isak's an option until we see him start consistently, or if Ekitike gets injured. Do you prefer Enzo or Joao Pedro? It just depends on the context. I think for the next 2 game weeks, I prefer Joao Pedro, but longer term, I think Enzo's more consistent in general. Hello, Dylan. Sell Van der Ven for James or roll the transfer. There is a chance James is benched. Just bear that in mind. If you have good squad depth defensively, and this is just like a short-term punt, and it won't backfire or cost you massively, then I would maybe take the risk. But I think James could be benched. I'm not saying it will definitely happen. Just bear that in mind. Thanks, Dylan. Gabriel next game week, he's killing me. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, Gabriel's been by far the best defender this season. He costs 6.6 now, which is ridiculous, right? But yeah, going into next season, he's going to be 6.5 to 7 if he continues this. Gabriel captain for me. I hope it goes well for you, and that means an Arsenal win. Do you think Sanchez is going to play? Why would he not? That's my question. I'm pretty sure he will. Hello, Dylan. Transferring Rice or Szoboszlai? Declan Rice. Kudus to Rice. Already have Calafiori Raya from Arsenal. Yeah, I like Declan Rice. Yeah. Now, Kudus could still start today. If he's fit enough, he will get the nod over Brennan Johnson, but it all depends on that late fitness test. Hi, Dylan. Is Senesi better over Anderson and Saka over Bruno? I prefer Saka over Bruno, yes. Senesi Anderson is debatable. If that's Elliot Anderson, yeah. If it's Joachim Anderson, I would lean towards him this week, but Senesi is still worth keeping overall. Dylan, why have you waited after Gameweek 8 to wildcard? I've explained this already, Punjabi. So my original plan was to wildcard in 8 or 9, but as you saw in my recent progress, I've been getting green arrow after green arrow and doing quite well. I didn't feel a need to wildcard. Now it's a little bit different because we've got fixture swings in Game Week 12 and 13, so I can get Liverpool players, for example, and go for something a little bit different. Maybe I can go to Raya in goal instead of Timber in the defence, and that opens up Munoz, and then changing Lacroix, for example, which might seem a bit sideways, which I completely get, but it just allows me more flexibility and targeting fixture swings. And ultimately, my team, in my opinion, was good enough in Game Week 8 or 9, and I've made a lot of progress since then. Heated Gaming says, hello Dylan, any advice? I got 2 free transfers. More Kudus, Rodon and Senesi on the bench. I think Gakpo's sellable, especially because you've got Ekitike as well. So selling Gakpo to one of Rice, you've only got Timber for Arsenal. Okay, so something like Gakpo to Sarr, and then upgrading one of your defenders to Gabriel. That would be my suggestion. And that could even be one of Senesi or Gay, by the way. As good as they have been, I think Gabriel is worth that investment. Or you do Vicario to Raya. Yeah, that would be my advice. Gakpo to Sarr, and use those funds to upgrade Vicario to Raya or get Gabriel. I think Delap will start front. Yeah, I've gone for that in my predicted lineup, but it all depends on his fitness. Buy Cucurella or James. Cucurella is safer. That's all I'm going to say. Are you confident in Saka? I'm taking a -4. Am I confident enough to take a -4 hit? I'm not so sure, but I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I believe Saka will do well against the likes of Sunderland, Tottenham and Chelsea. So I think he's still worth keeping for those that have, and even purchasing in certain situations. To bring Gabriel or Timber, I prefer Gabriel, and I would rather sell Borro. Yeah. When Delap gets subbed off, João Pedro will be up front. Play Donnarumma or Dubravka? Probably Dubravka. Well, Liverpool are not in bad form. They just beat Real Madrid and Aston Villa. Before that, yes, they were in terrible form, but football is a funny game. Probably Haaland, unfortunately. That's my captain. Captain Haaland, Fernandes or Gabriel. I'm going Haaland, but you saw my captaincy list just a few minutes ago. I'm not so sure if it's worth starting Estev. I think West Ham will score. Start Sanchez or Sells. Well, I've gone for a Forest clean sheet, so look, don't take my word for it. I think most people would back Chelsea to keep one, but I'm going to say Sells based on my scoreline predictions. I could be wrong, so you got to back your gut on that one. Sanchez is the safer pick. There's no denying it, but yeah, I would go for Sells. Captain, Haaland, Mateta or Bruno? Haaland. Your thoughts on Sanchez's minutes? Well, if we're talking about Robert Sanchez, he either starts or doesn't play at all. So, yeah, I believe Sanchez will start. I'm getting a lot of Sanchez questions, which is weird. Hey, bench one of Senesi, Burner and Richards. I would bench Senesi. Rodgers, Burn, Senesi, Joachim Anderson, Minter. Start 2. 1 defender's compulsory. Probably Joachim Anderson, and I would go for Morgan Rodgers. Is Saka captain a good call? He's in my top 4, so I think he's a good call. Is he good enough to go against Haaland? For me personally, probably not this week, but I was quite keen against Burnley, and he missed some big chances. Yes, Semenyo could be a shout. I have Saka. Should I captain him over Haaland? Not in my opinion, but play the game the way you want to. This is about bouncing ideas off each other. I'm offering my takes. I'm also including stats in my analysis, but you've got to make your own decision there. I personally would go for Haaland, but I like the fact that people want to go different. That's something I hope that people will do more often. And more importantly, I want there to be more options that we can rely upon. So we've got a big decision to make, not just captain Haaland by default. Another striker in the Premier League, not at the level of Haaland right now. That's why many FPL managers captaining him. It's not just strikers, though. It's about midfielders in FPL. Palmer, Saka, Fernandes, Salah. They're not at the races, really, on a consistent basis. Start Senesi on Van der Ven. Probably Van der Ven. Yeah. Very close, though. Best game week for bench boost. It's team dependent. Use FPL.team and visualize future game weeks. I don't know your squad, so it's impossible for me to say, but that's the best advice I can give. Haaland knows his role to give points to us, FPL managers. Yeah, but I really couldn't care less. I'd rather he blanked than City drop points, but hopefully that comes this weekend. Is captaining Bowen ahead of Haaland and Mateta kind of crazy? Well, Bowen is in my top 10. Based on form and also stats, you'd probably say it's a bit crazy, to be fair, because Bowen, if I'm not mistaken, still has 0 big chances this season. And I think Haaland's got 20, which is insane. But look, Bowen's a quality finisher. And against Burnley, I've actually gone for a 3-2. If West Ham score 3 again and Bowen isn't involved, that's a huge surprise. Play Senesi, Rodon, or Reinders. Out of those 3, I would play Rodon this week. Because I think that's a cagey game. And whilst I've gone for 1-0 Forest, it could easily be the other way around and Leeds win. I bought Enzo and sold Gordon. Yeah, that's a good move. I don't think Gordon's a good FPL asset. I only like him in UCL Fantasy. Welcome to Stapaki. I think it's worth going against Haaland, but not sure my nerves can take it anymore, so captain becomes a complete waste of time. Look, I'll be honest. If I had Saka or even Marino, and I could still bring Marino in, then I would consider it. But Gabriel... Like, there's something in the back of my mind that says Sunderland could score here. I didn't have that feeling against Burnley and all these other teams that Arsenal played recently. And by the way, I've gotten a few scoreline predictions right for the Gunners. But, yeah, with Sunderland, that's a tougher game to call. But I get that. There is an opportunity this week, just like we got against Aston Villa away. But it's very difficult to know exactly when we're going to get this. I think Haaland will score and get bonus points. That's my prediction. But hopefully I'm wrong. And if he does score, a draw will be perfect. Dylan, what's your plan with Liverpool assets post 11? That's where the wildcard comes in. I'm going to use it in Game Week 12 or 13. Then I can bring in Virgil van Dijk. Maybe Salah. I'm not ruling it out. Ekitike is an option up front, but it's kind of awkward with Liverpool because they've got some quality players, but FPL-wise, not many have been consistent. Here comes the permanent captain. Look, I don't think I'm going to captain Haaland in every single game week this season. And by the way, I went several weeks without him and he absolutely destroyed my rank, except for game week 2. But yeah, there will come a time where Haaland drops off a little bit or Man City struggle. Maybe Haaland gets injured. These things can happen. I don't think Haaland will be this good for the entire season. There will be blanks. There will be maybe a down period. But ultimately, he's going to be the best option in the game. Morning as well, Twister Parky. Senesi or Anderson to start. As covered multiple times, mate, it would be Anderson. Sell Ndai to Enzo. No, I have to repeat that. Not for me. Feel like getting off Saka in some time. If he doesn't return, 10 million is a lot. Absolutely. But I don't think now is the time. Captain Enzo or Joao Pedro. Joao Pedro for me. Rice or Marino. This week it's Marino. If you're looking for a 1 week punt, Marino is my biggest recommendation. Long term though, if you don't have the wild card in your back pocket and you want this player for many months, Declan Rice. So it all depends on the context. But in my situation, look, if I had to make one transfer, it's going to be Reinders to Marino, as you can see in the poll. But it is very, very close. Rolling is just about winning. Bench Semenyo or Senesi or Xhaka? I would bench Xhaka. Bench which two? Reluctantly, it would be Voltemada and Caicedo. Yeah, Bruno Guimaraes is decent. I'm not sure if I'd be buying him in. I prefer Rice and Sarr, Enzo Fernandez, etc. But Bruno Guimaraes is quite underrated. Best midfielder to buy this week to replace Kudus. I plan to wildcard between game week 12-15. 1 week punt, it would be Marino. I still like Rice, Sarr, Enzo. I've covered all of them already. I think with your situation, I'd probably go for one of Enzo or Marino. Murphy, Neto, and Boomer, Tavernier, Thiago, bench one, please. Well, both Neto and Tavernier aren't guaranteed to start. I would definitely go for Mbuma and Thiago. Then it's between the other three to bench. I'm going to say... Probably Tavernier. It's between him and Murphy. I'd start the rest. Okay, so just waiting for the chat to work again. Yeah, what about Saka? I mean, I've covered him a lot recently. I think he's a top 4 captaincy option. I think jumping on Isak early in Gameweek 12 could pay off really well. But you think he's going to start? That's my question. Like, after what I just said, yes, he's got the international break, which will help him a little bit, but Ekitike will surely be first choice. That's the way I see it. And you've also got the Champions League. There's going to be rotation there. It's a massive headache for me. I just don't like it. Banjo says, Gyökeres out, Ekitike in. Fair enough. I mean, I'd be more keen on Ekitike than Isak based on the injury situation and fitness, but I still think that's a massive headache. Hey, Dylan, Rice or Sarr? Probably Sarr. I have already Mateta and Lacroix from Palace. Yeah, fair enough. I can see why that factors into your thinking, but yeah, I like both of them. Ismail Sarr is a slight preference of mine. What do you think about Mateta captain? You saw my captaincy list. I can't really speak much more, on top of that, but he's in my top 5 list. If I wanted to go differential and tackle Haaland, Mateta would be one of the front runners. Yeah, I saw that easy. You also talked about this in the FPL reaction stream last week. Best midfield on the free hit. Marino, Mbumo, Saka, maybe Enzo Fernandez, and I'll say Ndai. Why not? Now, look, if you are able to get Salah, then that's always an option for you, but that could also hamper the rest of your free hit squad. Hi, Dylan. Are you sure about Haaland captain? I just don't... It's not really just a question of being sure about Haaland. I have a lot of confidence in him as an asset. I think against anybody, even against Arsenal, he's the only player to have scored against them from open play. So as good as Liverpool have been in the last 2 games, and they had shaky moments against Villa, I think Haaland is just at a level where he's just scoring so often and he's getting big chances. He's playing very well overall. His all-round play is improving. And the biggest problem for me is the lack of consistency and high ceiling from other options. If there was a Palmer from 2 years ago, if there was Saka, Watkins, Salah at their best, then I would be very much considering something different. But I just can't really go to anybody else now. Even Gabriel, who's probably the closest in terms of captaincy. Yeah, against Sunderland, I'm a bit less keen, just to be honest with you. Hey Dylan, what do you think about this bench when it comes to using the bench boost? Dubravka, Senesi, Xhaka, Rodon? It's okay. Look, 1 return is certainly possible from that, and that would be a decent bench, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Like, if it was me, I probably wouldn't play it, but once again, use FPL.team, visualize future game weeks. Caicedo or Enzo? For the next 2, it's going to be Enzo Fernandez. Bench 1 of Van der Ven, Virgil, Gakpo, or Semenyo? I would bench Virgil van Dijk. Okay, so I've covered a lot of these questions already. I'll go back to these very soon. Yeah, but I'm going to show you the predicted lineups. Well, I'll cover some team news now. I think that's probably the best thing to do with these lineups here. So let's start off with Arsenal. So remember, your questions will not be highlighted in this section. And I'm just going to go through all of these starting 11s very quickly. So the number you see in the top right-hand corner is my correct predictions for this season out of 110, which is the maximum I could have scored. So Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori. I've gone for Zubimendi, Rice and Eze, Saka, Trossard, and Marino. With Aston Villa, Martinez, Cash, Konsa, Pau Torres, Luka Dean, Kamara, Onana, McGinn, Buendia, Rodgers, and Ollie Watkins. With Bournemouth, Petrovic, Jimenez, Diakite, Senesi, Truffert, Scott, Adams, Brooks, Semenyo, Cliver, and Kripke Jr. Now, to be honest with you, my biggest concern is Tavernier. I think he could start over one of Cliver or Brooks, so that remains to be seen. With Brentford, I've gone for Kelleher, Coyote, Collins, Vandenberg, Adja, Henderson, Yarmulke, Dango Ouattara, Sharda, Damsgaard, and Igor Thiago. With Brighton and Hove Albion, Verbruggen, Vifa, Van Heck, Dunk, Kadioglu, Baliba, Ayari, Minter, Gomez, Jorginho Rota, and Welbeck. Moving on to Burnley, it could be a back 4 this time, with Dubravka, Walker, Twanzebe, Estev, Hartman, Cullen, Florentino Luis, Chuana and Jadon Anthony, Ogochukwu and Fleming. With Chelsea, Pedro Neto is yellow flagged, but I think he could start. It all depends on his fitness. With Sanchez in goal, Gusto, Fofana, Chalobah, Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo in the midfield, Joao Pedro, Garnacho, and a return for Liam Delap. With Crystal Palace, Wharton has still been a bit of a doubt over the last couple of days, but I think he will start if fully fit and ready to get the nod. With Henderson in goal, Richards, Lacroix and Gay, Munoz and Mitchell as the wing-backs, Kamada partnering Wharton in the midfield, Sarr, Bino and Mateta. And by the way, 3 of these players went up in price overnight in Mateta, Sarr and Mark Gay. With Everton, another team I've gone over 100 correct predictions for, Pickford, O'Brien, Tarkovsky, Keane, Mikalenko, Idrissa Gana, Gay and Ghana, Indai and Grealish on the wings, Dewsbury Hall, and it's a coin toss between Tierno Barry and Beto. I've gone for the Frenchman instead. With Fulham, Leno, Tete, Anderson, Bassi, Sessegnon, Iwobi and Sandenberg, Wilson and Kevin on the wings, and King just behind Raul Jimenez, but that is also a bit of a doubt. It could be Manice. With Leeds United, I've gone for Nemecha up front instead of the injured Calvert-Lewin, who could still make it for the Nottingham Forest game, but it isn't a guarantee. Perry and goal, Bogle, Rodon, Biol, Goodmanson, Ampadu, Longstaff, and I've gone for Stack. The biggest concern here, apart from the striker position, would be Tanaka against Stack, but I've gone for the German. Aronson and Okafor would complete this starting 11. And Liverpool, Mamardashvili, Bradley, Kanate, Van Dijk, Robertson, Gravenberch, McAllister. I've gone for Salah, Szoboszlai and Wirtz on the left and Ekitike up front. Moving on to Man City, Donnarumma, Nunez, Ruben Dias, Gavardio and O'Reilly, Nico Gonzalez, Bernardo Silva and Doku on the wings, Cherki, Foden and Erling Haaland. With Manchester United, Lamins in goal, Yoro, De Ligt, Shaw, Amad Diallo and Dallo on the wings, Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes in central midfield, Mbumo, Cunha and Benjamin Sesko. Newcastle United so close to 100 there. Pope, Trippier, Chow, Botman, Byrne, Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Joelinton, Murphy and Barnes on the wings, and Voltemada up front. With Nottingham Forest, another Centurion team here with predictions, Sel, Savona, Milenkovic, Murillo, Williams, Yates, Anderson, Hutchinson, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, and Igor Jesus. They had a goalless draw on Thursday where Gibbs-White missed a penalty, and the likes of Hudson-Odoi and Douglas Luiz are doubtful. It looks like they'll miss the Leeds game, and that's why I've gone for those 2 changes. Moving on to Sunderland, it should be an unchanged side to play Arsenal with Roofs in goal and a back 5 of Hume, Mukiele, Ballard, Hirtrauda and Reinildo Mandava, Traore and Lefay on the wings, Xhaka and Siddiqui in the midfield, and Isidore up front. With Tottenham Hotspur, I believe Kudus will start if he's fit enough to get the nod there against United in the early kickoff, with Akaru in goal, Borro and Spence as the fullbacks, Romero and Van der Ven in central defence, Paulinho and Bentancur in the midfield, Kudus and Odobert on the wings, and Xavi Simons just behind Colomwani. We now have 2 teams left. Areola, Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Kilman, Diouf, Potts, Fernandez, Bowen, Paqueta, Somerville and Wilson is the likely West Ham starting 11. I don't see them making any changes after a 3-1 win against Newcastle. But with Wolves, it's the worst team in terms of predictions. They're the worst team in the Premier League right now. And honestly, I couldn't guarantee you what they're going to do with their interim manager. But I think they'll go to a back 3 with Johnston in goal, Santiago Bueno, Krejci and Totti Gomez, Chichauna and Hugo Bueno as the wing-backs. Joao Gomez and Andre will surely start after being benched against Fulham in that 3-0 defeat. Manetzi, Hwang Hee-chan and Strand Larsen is my predicted 11. There could also be a space for Bellegarde in that midfield. So that completes their predicted lineups. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat, and we'll see if I make any changes to my FPL squad. Marino is the kind of front runner if I had to make any move this week. Otherwise, rolling is a real possibility. Drop a like, subscribe, hype the video, share it as well to people who love FPL and UCL Fantasy. Matchday 5 videos will return after the international break with the best wildcard and limitless squads, my team selection, and of course another hectic deadline stream. As for FPL, of course, There's always going to be transfer tips, wildcard teams, team selections, and occasionally predicted lineups in their own podcasts. And of course, free hits would be a factor in certain game weeks as well. I agree it's an opportunity this week. Bournemouth killed all my hope. In hindsight, not the best choice on reflection after what Mateta did. Yeah, that's the key reason why I stuck with Haaland as captain last week, despite the fact that his record against Bournemouth was previously very poor. Now it looks a bit better now, but yeah, with Erling Haaland, the form he's in, and Bournemouth were very naive. As good as Iraola is as a manager, he did set things up wrong tactically because he gave Erling Haaland way too much space in that game. Hi Dylan, bench Bruno, Enzo or Ndai? I don't like it. I really don't. If I had to pick one to bench, it's probably Ndai, but I think that's a mistake. Joao Pedro, Haaland, Sar, Mateta ranked by best captaincy shout. Well, it's just worth referring back again to my captaincy list, which I showed you before. There's nothing really else I can really say, so that speaks for itself. Yeah, I did cover the captaincy earlier. Should I sell Kudus for Marino or bench Kudus and play Reinders, hence rolling the transfer? I would go to Marino, Osman. Especially if you are wildcarding in Game Week 12 or 13. I think that's the best thing you can do. Yeah, Twan, I think Defcon will be permanent, unlike the assistant manager from last season. Captain Mateta, one of my favourite options this week, but yeah, he's in my top 5. I still think Haaland's better, but that's just my take. Hello, Dylan. Will you swap Pope to Sanchez? No. The only goalkeeper I'd buy is Raya. So with Pope, you could stomach it out, especially if you don't have a double up defensively. And if, for example, you've got Pope and Burn, I'd rather sell Dan Burn and then go to Munoz, Gabriel, Timber, all these defenders I've highlighted. Would you bench boost Krupi Jr., Dubravka, Anthony Mukiele? I think Mukiele lets it down a little bit, but I do like Krupi Jr. Even Anthony could be okay. I'm going to say yes. Once again, use FPL.team. Yes, Neto's a doubt. He was left out of the Champions League squad against Karabag. King and Gyökeres, De Bruyne and Guiu. I'm not so sure, to be honest. I would rather go to Sarr or a similarly priced midfielder and then get Welbeck or Thiago up front. But that's just my opinion. Hola, Dylan, what would you do with this team? Yeah, well, once I see the message, I'll go for it. Yeah, I haven't seen the team. Who to bench? Donnarumma, Dubravka. Yeah, I would start Dubravka, actually. James, Senesi, Gabriel, Rodon, Munoz, Gakpo. Look, James has good fixtures, but there is a chance he's benched. I'd probably risk starting him because he's better than most of your defenders except Gabriel. But yeah, Gabriel, Munoz, and I'd probably take a punt on James. Midfield, I'd probably bench Gakpo and just start the 3 forwards. So there you go. Starting 11 is sorted. Yeah, Rodon isn't a bad player to start this week, to be honest. But you're not going to start him over James because that could backfire massively. But that's just my opinion. Thiago or Caicedo for the bench. I would probably bench Caicedo. Minter, Gakpo and Reinders start 1 or best transfer option. I would start Minter, and I think the priority sell is Reinders. Ultimately, him and Gakpo are sellable. Should I start Diouf over who? Like, it's difficult for me to say if you should start him because I don't know the alternatives, but he's not a terrible option this week. I've gone for 3-2 West Ham though. Hola Dylan, tengo Gyökeres, pero ¿para quién lo cambio? Mateta. Es el mejor delantero que puedes comprar. Podría usar dinero para mejorar Reinders o un defensa del Arsenal. Sí, yo prefiero una defensa de Arsenal, pero también depende de quién tienes. No sé si tienes un doble defensa de Arsenal ya, pero creo que eso es mejor que comprar un mediocampista. Best family midfielder. I'm thinking Anthony to Sarr, Reinders to a 5 or less midfielder. Well, Jacques is 5.1. He's my favourite at a similar price tag, but yeah, you're kind of scraping down the bottom of a barrel at 5 and below. So, I'll be honest with you, I'm not infused with the options. But if I had to pick, there might be one decent choice. So I think it's worth having a look. I mean, Florentino Luis has been very impressive from an FPL perspective. He's averaging, I mean, well, the last 2 games have been a letdown, to be fair. But before that, he was scoring DEFCON in every single game. I think there's probably someone a little bit better, though. 5 million and below. Maybe Lefay. He's on penalties for Sunderland. I think Lefay. The problem is they have terrible fixtures, but that would probably spring to mind. I'm looking at the rest. I mean, Brooks could start this week, but yeah, I think Semenyo's enough cover for Bournemouth and Senesi in the defence. So really, it's going to be something like that. I think Adams is also very important to Bournemouth. Obviously, he scored against City, but with him, it's mainly Defcom. I'm going to say Lefay as an attacking option. Otherwise, just stick with Defcom. Play Richards or Senesi. Richards, covered earlier. Burn or Senesi, another question I've covered. It's going to be Burn. Hey, good morning. Start Anderson or Van der Ven. I'll take a punt on Anderson. Taking out Gyökeres and 2 in front for the next few game weeks. Game week 16, so for a -4 with long-term in view. Gyökeres, Gakpo, Caicedo out for Guiu, Sarr, and Saka and Mbeumo. And if yes, which of Saka and Mbeumo? Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Gyökeres to Guiu. I've seen that in so many situations, especially for a hit. But as for the other moves you're talking about, yeah, I don't think you need to sell Caicedo, though. Gakpo, I'm more keen on selling, despite the fixture swing for Liverpool very soon. So yeah, if I had to pick 2 midfielders, probably Sarr and Mbeumo. Minter or Senesi play. Minter. While Neto was left out of the Chelsea squad, there's not really much more to say about him. That was against Karabag. As for now, yeah, it doesn't seem anything serious. I think it's just a knock still. Just having a look at the Premier League website, and again, because I had the quotes up here. Okay, so this was Enzo Maresca's quote about Pedro Neto. He had a session yesterday with the physio outside on the pitch. It was good, and today he will try with us, and then we will take the final decision. So that's all I can really say. Enzo captain punt. Go for it if you want. I mean, his record against Wolves is terrible. I think he's a good option for the next 2 game weeks, but I'm not sure if I'd captain him. But you got to back your gut on that one. Captain Joao Pedro, probably my favourite Chelsea option this week, but he's very inconsistent. Hi Dylan, bench free, Rodon, Senesi, Gakpo, Guiu. Basically, start 1. I think that'd be simpler. I would go for Gakpo to start. Adding Dubravka to whoever you choose to bench. Would you bench boost that? Possibly, but Guiu does even start. I think Delap is more likely up front. How much do you trust this home and away narrative? People going for Haaland captain because it's a home match. Well, to be honest, I've captained Haaland in many away games and he's been brilliant. I don't think that's a big factor when it comes to Haaland. Maybe with the ceiling in terms of getting braces and hat tricks, he's more likely at the Etihad, but not in terms of chance of scoring in general. I don't think so. Burn or Senesi? Yeah, that's been covered. Kruppi or Thiago and play bench boost? I prefer Thiago long term, so that's my answer. Joachim Anderson or Senesi? Joachim Anderson this week. Any changes? 0.1 in the bank, 1 free transfer. I think roll. Otherwise, it's the defence again. You've got Dewsbury as a budget option, and you've also got 2 4 million defenders. And that's allowed you to go for Bruno, Saka, Haaland, and plenty of premiums. But you've also not got Gabriel. So, yeah, I think the defensive line is the weakest part of your team. You don't necessarily need to make a transfer now, but I would start to reshuffle that in the coming weeks. So, I'd keep Senesi and Timber, but the rest, yeah, I think keep Rodon, but sell with Steven van der Ven. And in order to make the upgrades you really want, that might require a downgrade elsewhere. It probably will. That's the problem. But even something like Saka to Mbeumo or Bruno to Mbeumo, that could be the way forward. I have Semenyo, Sarr, Eze, need 2 for the midfield for 12 million. Yeah, well, long term, it's Semenyo and Sarr for me, but that's more than 12 million, so I'm not sure what we can do here. I really don't know. Start Senesi or Burn, yeah. Gyökeres, Alderete, Thiago, Joao Pedro, Gay, Richards for bench boost. Yeah, looks good. Thiago's fine. Joao Pedro. For the next 2, Joao Pedro looks better, but long term, I think Thiago offers better value. Gay or Richards. I mean, Gay's been better this season. Is he worth extra 0.5? So far, you'd say yes. I'd probably go for Gay if you can, but it's not like a massive priority. Bold forward shout. Bold forward shout. I mean, Thiago, I guess. I mean, people have been downplaying that pick recently. I still think he's a good option, so I'm going to stick with him. No worries, Femi. Start Welbeck or Voltemada. This week, I'd be tempted by Welbeck. Hi, Dylan. How's it going, mate? All good. What about you? Captain Saka or Gabriel? Saka. You saw my Campsy list earlier. Hey, Dylan. Dubravka, Anderson, Anthony Goodmanson. Anthony to Rice, Enzo, Szoboszlai, play bench boost. Yeah. I think for the next 2 weeks, Enzo looks better. Long term is Rice, but especially if you want to activate or optimize your bench boost this week, I'd go for Enzo and just activate it, get it done with. Would you bench boost with Reece James in the starting 11? I probably still would, but it depends on the context of your 50-man squad. Are you happy with your bench? Borro or Minter to start? I'd go for Minter. A few meters closer would be Whitehawk FC, says Twisted Parky. Is Sarr fit? Yeah, I think so. Glasner said that kind of weird comment about Sarr having tightness in his hamstring before the Europa League match, the Europa Conference League match, where Sarr scored a brace. So I wouldn't be too concerned. Yeah, decent bench. I mean, I'm not a big fan of King, for example, but I think the rest looks fairly solid. I showed that already, Mac Drac. I'll probably do that again after the deadline. I'm in a dilemma, Dylan. I am starting in Die, but I don't know who to start between Anderson and Senesi. As covered multiple times, I'd go for Anderson. Yeah, Jar, I went for your team. Thank you. Welcome, Nor. I need your insight. In Die, Semenyo, Sarr, Gakpo, Reinders, Voltemada, Joao Pedro, Haaland. Should I get Mateta for Voltemada and Rice for Gakpo? I like Mateta. I think he's an upgrade on Voltemada, but I do think it's a bit reactionary for people looking to sell Voltemada now, in my opinion, because a few weeks ago, everyone would say, just sell Joao Pedro, keep Voltemada. So things change very quickly, but yeah, looks good overall. Gakpo does have a fixture swing soon, and you might want more Liverpool coverage, so just bear that in mind, but there is a chance Gakpo is benched against City tomorrow. So overall, I'd say yes. Bench 1 out of Keane, Senesi, Gakpo, Reinders, Voltemada. I would bench Reinders. 2 free transfers, Kudus and Welbeck out for Bowen and Sarr, or Mateta and Paqueta. I just don't really see the need to sell Welbeck to Bowen. I prefer Mateta, but then buying Paqueta? Nah, not really. You're just, I think a big reason why you're considering these West Ham players is Burnley at home. That doesn't mean you have to do it. But if I had to pick a duo, it's going to be Mateta and Paqueta. Voltemada to Mateta this week. I like Voltemada still. I don't think he's a sell, but yeah, Mateta's the second best forward in the game right now. Play Dubravka or Donnarumma. Dubravka. Bench boost Senesi, Goodmanson and Minter. Looks decent. I'd probably go for it. Do Borro to 4.5 and Guy to Thiago and bench boost to Dubravka, Steph, Thiago and 4.5. And who do you prefer for the next 2, Fofana or Richards? I would just go for Richards. Fofana is a rotation risk. Yeah, the transfers in general look decent. At least you're looking to sell Guy. That's refreshing. A lot of people are looking to buy him, which I don't really agree with in most cases, but I understand some of the reasons. Paulo Dybala, you said something like, I got 1 free transfer in 0.1 or whatever it was, but you didn't put your team. How can I answer your question? I don't really get it. Hi, Dylan, Senesi, Anderson or Stev this week. I would go for Anderson. Start Dubravka or Pope? Pope. Thoughts on Rice and for Ndai? No, not for me. Grealish or Rodgers to sell? Probably Grealish. Bench Voltemada or Caicedo? Caicedo. Do I make the move from Van der Ven to Richards? I plan to wildcard from 12-13 anyways. I don't see that as a massive upside, though. I think both Spurs and Crystal Palace will concede anyway. When is a good gaming to bench boost before Christmas? That is very team dependent. The same goes for the free hit. I couldn't really answer that definitively for anybody, but look, I felt my bench was good last week. It failed horrendously. Maybe I would have started Burn over Lacroix, so I gained something. It doesn't really matter anyway. I've played it. I'm happy that the chip is out of the way, to be honest. There is a case to save it for Gameweek 16-17 because we get 5 free transfers from AFCON, and you can use that to bolster your bench boost, basically, and target fixture swings within the Christmas period. So maybe Gameweek 16-17 would be the standout. Who to start between Anderson and Heck? Yeah, Anderson, I agree. Kudus or Semenyo? Semenyo. Which defender to bench, please? Trippier, Richard, Senesi. Senesi. 1 on the bench, Voltemada, Sarr, Semenyo, Paqueta. Voltemada. I think I'm rolling with an 11 of Pope, Timber, Gabriel, Richard, Saka, Semenyo, Enzo, Sarr, Voltemada, Mateta, Haaland. Yeah, looks decent. I don't really see anything that you have to make this week. It would just be nitpicking, in my opinion. Like Raya over Pope. But you've already got triple Arsenal, so that's just not really something you should do. Richards to Munoz. Luxury transfer, so I think that's fine. Start Anderson or Richards? Yeah, Anderson for me. Which defender to start, Dubravka or Donnarumma? Yeah, Dubravka, I covered that earlier. This Anderson-Richards question... No, I'm going to say Richards. Richards is the one. And I've been saying that consistently throughout the stream. Voltemada, Reinders, Tarkowski to Mateta, Minter and Keane. Yeah, looks good. Keane should be fine for the next month or so, but there's always that sort of risk of Branthwaite coming back, but he has had so many setbacks with his injuries, so... Start 1. From those 3 is probably Richards. Why no Mateta? Because... Look, Voltemada's been good for me. I'm not going to sell Haaland, and Joao Pedro's got Burnley and Wolves over the next 2, so as much as I like Mateta, I'm not going to force him in. Best Chelsea midfielders this week. Enzo's the best one. Then you're looking at Neto, Caicedo. Hey Dylan, 5.8 million midfielder. Probably just Xhaka still. Thoughts on Kudus to Marino? As a 1-week punt, yes. Not long-term. Achimpong or Senesi? There's no guarantee Achimpong starts, but if you've got him, I just start him just in case. Bench boost, yeah, you asked this earlier. I said yes, but ultimately use FPL.team. Timber or James this season? Timber all day long. Paqueta for Kudus, yeah, it's okay. I would rather go for Sarr, Rice, Enzo, all these midfielders I discussed for 0.7, 0.8 million more, but that's fine. Yeah, decent bench. I'd probably go for it. I want to dead end my third striker spot. I have Larson. On my bench would be Dubravka, Dewsbury Hall, Estevan, Larson. Thinking of bench boost, even though it's not optimal. I'm not a massive fan of that bench personally, but you never know. Sometimes a bench looks terrible and it gets a lot of points, so FPL is a funny game. Yeah, Enzo is far better than Reinders. I think that goes without saying. Paulo Dybala puts his team. 1 free transfer, 1.5 in the bank. Raya, Gabriel, Byrne, Richard, Semenyo, Sarr, Enzo and Dai, Haaland, Mateta, Voltemada, Dubravka, Alderete, Senesi, Kudus on the bench. Yes, looking good for this week. You don't need to make a transfer now, but over the coming weeks, I would sell Kudus. I would also... I don't think you need to make any other changes in your defensive line. Otherwise, it's kind of like very nitpicky. So getting Munoz in for Richards, that's not really necessary. So I think for now you're good, but Kudus is the priority sell. Bench 1, Igor, Thiago, Welbeck or Gakpo? Yeah, Gakpo's the one to bench. Sanchez or Pope? I'd start Sanchez. Who should I bench between Borro, James, Byrne and Gay to bring in Enzo? I would bench Dan Byrne. Yeah, thank you very much, Awali. As he says, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. I've answered hundreds of questions, some of them obviously a few times, just to make sure that you heard the answer. And yeah, I provided all the team news, injury updates, predicted lineups, clean sheet odds, top 10 captains, so you're well prepared for Gameweek 11. Thank you, Ignacio. Is that Voltemada for Mateta? And also Thiago for Delap. I wouldn't sell Thiago for Delap, no. That's very short term. And Delap is very inconsistent. But yeah, Voltemada to Mateta. As much as I like the German, I'd go for Mateta, yeah. That's the move I'd make. Bench boost of Rodon, Dubravka, Voltemada, Senesi. I'd go for it. Gordon is on pens, but obviously he's likely going to miss out this week, right? So Voltemada should be on pens, yeah. But he's not first choice overall. Start 1, Anderson, Senesi, Richards. Yeah, Richards as covered earlier. Captain Haaland, Saka, Mateta. Haaland's top of my captaincy list. Tustapaki, puts a squad. Bench, Dubravka, King, Senesi, Tosin. Munoz for Tosin, then sub out Rodon. Yes. It doesn't matter if your rival has him. It's a long season. You can find or claw up the gap in other ways. I think Munoz is a great move. Hi Dylan, start 2, Joao Pedro, Sarr. Is that Moises Caicedo? I would start the first 2. But yeah, don't spam, mate. That's just ridiculous. Gravenberch or Senesi? Senesi. But Gravenberch has been decent. Agreed, rolling to 3 next week. Think Voltemada will be on the chopping block. Use that money to change Enzo, Timber, Pope maybe. Yeah, exactly. When your squad looks, that good on paper, I mean, sometimes it can go tips up. We all know that, but yeah, you don't need to force a transfer when there's no need. Start Borro or Senesi. I've got Bruno also. I'd start Borro. Senesi or Anthony. I'd start Anthony. Start 2, Van der Ven, Tarkovsky, Senesi. I would bench Senesi. Ekatike or Eze. I'd start Eze. Voltemada or Joao Pedro. I prefer Joao Pedro this week. Thank you, Awale, for moderating the chat. I appreciate it. Joao Pedro, captain. He's in my top 6. I think there are better options, but he's still decent. Ashwin says Rangers to Sarr, Calafria to Anderson for a -4. Not for me. No. No worries, Paulo Dybala. Good luck with your game week. Mateta, Haaland or Gabriel captain? Haaland. If you want to go different, Mateta's the one. Thoughts on bench boost? Rodon, Senesi, Thiago, Dubravka. Looks solid. I think Thiago's the one that makes that a solid bench with a chance of a return or 2. Would you bench boost Donnarumma, Reinders, Anderson, Foster? Not for me. Senesi or Rodon? Rodon. Bench Foden or Semenyo? I would bench Foden. Start Donnarumma or Dubravka? That's been a very popular question today. I'm going to say Dubravka again. Best defenders long term? Gabriel, Timber, Munoz, Gay. Apart from the Arsenal Palace defenders, really, because I could just go on with the other options. I'm going to say Van Dijk. After game week 11, he would be up there. Senesi, good fixtures after Aston Villa away. So those would stand out as the best defenders. Bench 2 between Caicedo, Voltemada, Senesi, Van der Ven. I would bench Caicedo and Senesi. Should I sell Richards to Keane? No. No, I don't think that's worth it. Start one of Burn, Rodon or Hartman. I would personally start Rodon, but that's just a gut feeling of the game being quite low scoring. I could be wrong about that. So you got to back your gut on that one. There's not much to separate them, but I'd personally go for Rodon. Yorkers for Marino or Rice. If you're wildcarding in 12, go for Marino. I'll keep it very simple. If you need this player long term, Rice will start week in, week out, essentially, with the odd benching here and there, whilst Marino is a squad player. But for Game Week 12, sorry, for Game Week 11, he'll start up front, and Marino is very appealing from that perspective. Start Burn or Senesi. I would start Burn. There's not much in it, though. Bench boost Rodon, Senesi, King, or wait until 16. I'd potentially wait until 16. The goalkeeper change is tough. If I keep Timber, Raya is a no-go, which leaves me with Donnarumma, Riffs, Lamens, really. That's the problem. That's why I say in a lot of cases, unless you can go to Raya, you don't need to. Nagib, you asked this question already. I highlighted it. I answered it. I don't know what else you want. So it's worth looking at the screen as well, because you can see when a message is highlighted, and then you can hear what I'm saying. Indai or Voltemada? Indai. Yeah, best defenders long term. Once again, read, also hear what I'm saying. That'll be much appreciated. Bench Kudus and start Diouf, or take a punt on Marino and transfer Kudus. I take a punt on Marino. As you say, you're wildcarding in 12. I think it's a great move. I would be very keen on buying Marino. The problem is having to bench a really good asset this week, but maybe it can be worth it. Let's put it that way. So in terms of the poll, rolling the transfer does win with 56%. I'll be honest though, as an Arsenal fan, you know, wanting a differential punt that could be a game changer, I am quite keen on buying Merino, but the problem is having to bench one of Voltemala, Sarr, Indai, Semenyo, Fernandes, or Joao Pedro. That is the issue. So, reluctantly, I might let this opportunity slip by in terms of the 1 week punt and have the extra free transfer, which hopefully will pay off in the long term. So, wildcarding in 12 or 13 and having 2 free transfers is basically what I want to get to after wildcarding. So, yeah, this is most likely my locked-in team. I would like to go for something a bit different than Haaland captain, but unfortunately, I don't like the rest of my options. If I had a Saka, either Marino or Mateta, then I would be quite tempted to captain one of those players. No major news from today, mate. And I showed you the predicted lineup, so you could have seen like the key assets that I predict to start and the ones that are benched or that will be left out, like Anthony Gordon. So that's all well and done. Yeah, I'm probably going to roll, which is a shame. If I had more free transfers, or if I had like, I don't know, just a clearer player to bench, then I would have bought in Marino and maybe captain him. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, it's just too many headaches and question marks here. Yeah, thank you, Awale. I appreciate all the work you're doing in the chat. Bench boost for a -4, Sarr, Senesi, Dubravka, Rodon. Looks good. I think Sarr could single-handedly carry it. So, yeah, I'd go for it. Start one of Reinders, Senesi, Goodmanson. Yeah, Pope Dubravka. Once again, it'll be Pope. Anderson from Forest, says Luca. Swap Anderson for someone on my bench. Van der Ven, Xhaka, Goodmanson. I'd maybe start Van der Ven, but I personally think Spurs will concede. But you've obviously got a goal threat from the Dutchman. You've also got DEFCON potential at times. I also think he's got more routes to points than Anderson. But then again, yeah, you said, yeah, from Forest. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. Just bench Semenyo for Marino. It's so obvious. Not necessarily, mate. Let's not forget, before the last 3 game weeks, Semenyo was by far the best midfielder in the game. So I disagree. Hi, Dylan. Start 1, please. Kudus, Reinders, Konsa, Renilo. I'd take a punt on Kudus, but yeah, even a -4 selling Kudus is not out of the question. But with you wildcarding next week, it's probably just worth sticking out of your options, not taking the hit, because ultimately with these -4s, you want it to have like a breathing room, not just like a 1 week punt. It has to work, otherwise it's a flop. With hits, you want it to pay off over a period of time. So I'm going to say no, just start Kudus. Sell Gakpo from Marino, yes, if you're wildcarding in 12. Otherwise, this might be just a very short-term punt that is outlived very shortly. Mateta captain or Haaland, I've already made my feelings very clear. Haaland's the best captain for me, but if you want to go different, I would be looking at the likes of Salah, Saka, Marino, and Mateta. You saw my captaincy list already. Bench boost, another one. No worries about the spelling errors. I would personally say no. You've got a double Burnley defence against West Ham, and I think the Clarets will concede. King and Goodmanson, I'm just not really feeling it, so I'm going to say no. But you always got to back your gut with bench boosts and your own decisions. Ali says Gyökeres, Stacken, Achimpong to Thiago, Minta, Munoz, or 2 Gyökeres, Stacken, and Dye to Thiago, Sacken, Bar. I'd go for number 1. And who to start from Senesi, Rodon, and Achimpong? I'd start Achimpong, but I personally don't think he will start, just to make it clear. I think it'll be Chalobah and also Fofana in central defence. Bench 1 of Van der Ven or Tarkowski, Van der Ven. Joao Pedro is 6th in my captaincy list. And by the way, the deadline has passed. I'm just answering the questions here. Maybe I'll give you reassurance or, yeah, but the deadline has passed. I've answered many questions. Let's get the stream up to 150 likes. It'd be greatly appreciated. I've been going live for the last couple of hours, answering all your questions and giving you all the updated graphics and information so you're well prepared for Game Week 11 and beyond. If you want to see a reaction stream as well, then show your support to the channel, subscribe, share this video around. Also click the hype button on YouTube, but we are indeed locked in. If Marino scores a brace, I am going to regret not buying him in, but we'll wait and see. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, that's for sure. Bench 2, Van der Ven, Xhaka, Dewsbury Hall. I would have benched Xhaka and probably Dewsbury Hall. Bench boost, Dubravka, Rodon, Stack, Senesi. Not for me. Not for me. But as everyone says in the chat, we are locked in. Good luck, Dylan. Decided to roll my transfer to have free transfers. Yeah, I've got 2 now after the break, but I am a bit disappointed that I didn't get Marino. And we'll see. Easy, I didn't forget. I literally was saying it in the last couple of minutes. I was talking about the process and my decision-making process that I would like to get Marino in, but I also have to think about the long term, the bigger picture. So I didn't forget. I don't think I've ever forgotten to make a transfer, except maybe UCL Fantasy this season with Quenda in match day 1. That's the only time I've forgotten to make a move. Good luck, managers. Likewise, Usman. Thank you, Ali. And thank you to Justin Nicholas. Newcastle have scored just 2 away goals all season in the league. Yeah, if I did bring in Marino, he was the one I was probably going to bench, but hopefully Voltemada scores. If he can do that, then I'll have no regrets about not buying Marino. Why didn't you captain Pedro? Because he blanked 5 games in a row? Yes, he scored against Tottenham. Well done. I mean, Dr. Tottenham can cure anybody, to be honest, but I think that's very reactionary to think, oh, he just scored against Tottenham. He got 9 points. I should captain him against Wolves. I mean, even against Karabag, he started and did nothing. So he's a very inconsistent player. So you're going to get some highs with him, even after captaining, but you're also going to get some massive lows. So yeah, Joao Pedro's too inconsistent for me to rely upon as a captaincy option. Cheers, Dylan. I'm backing Liverpool this week and captaining Mateta over Haaland. Yeah, hopefully a draw. I think City are the biggest threat for the title. Obviously, Liverpool have a lot of quality, but when you've got Pep Guardiola, one of the best managers of all time, and one of the best goal scorers of his generation in Haaland, in the form he's in, yeah, I'm taking a draw all day long and maybe a Liverpool win if I had to pick between those two. I started Kudus, but I hope he either starts or doesn't feature. Yeah, that's definitely the hope. My hope is Haaland hat-trick, says Awali. Not for me. But from an FPL perspective, that will benefit us because his effective ownership will be lower. So that means any returns will result in bigger rank rises. Yeah, I would have gone a punt for Marino. Your squad really good. Would have been a nice punt, but he is short-term. Yeah, it does make sense though because I'm planning to wildcard in 12 or 13 anyway. But like I said, it's just a big benching headache. And I'd like having flexibility. So even after wildcarding, having 2 or 3 free transfers is very useful. Good luck, Skelly Project. I made 4 free transfers today. I rolled, which is quite boring in comparison. Not really. No news on Kudus. It's down to a late fitness test. I think he'll start, but it all depends on if he's actually ready to get the nod there. But I'd be surprised if he wasn't in the squad. Let's put it that way. If he doesn't get the start, I think it'll be Brennan Johnson on the right. In Gameweek 9, I accidentally confirmed a couple of transfers while tinkering on the transfers page, lost all motivation to stay engaged with FPL. Yeah, you're not the only one to have experienced that with accidental transfers. Now, whenever people do that and they realize before the deadline, if you got a wildcard or free hit, still available, that's a perfect time to use it because then it, takes away all the hits and that can really help. I think you should do live stream after C Liverpool. Look, easy. It's easy to say that, but funny enough, I say the word easy. But yeah, it's about my schedule as well. And yeah, literally in a few days I'm traveling and I've got other things to do, unfortunately. So I might just stream today. And to be quite honest with you, on Sunday, there is a different sort of turnout. I think more people tune in on Saturday. So if people want to see it, I'm happy to do one tonight. And tomorrow, if possible, I'll record a video, probably a transfer tips or wildcard squad, and have that ready for the week. And then when I'm back, record more FPL News Your Fantasy videos. But it's also a question of schedule. If I was always free, then yeah, I could just say I'll do it after City Liverpool. Thank you, FPL Kevy. I'll see you very soon. Bowen captain. You love Jared Bowen, don't you? But good luck. Pedro was back to Anonymous versus Karabag. Dylan Wright not to captain. Well, that's the thing. If Joao Pedro scores and gets maximum bonus points and Haaland blanks, people are like, why didn't you captain Joao Pedro? It's all about results, ultimately. So I'm happy to take criticism or explain, why things went wrong, if they do go wrong, or explain why things went well after things, have actually turned out the way they did. But all we can do really is analyze, our decision-making, improve, learn from our mistakes. I think Haaland can definitely be rivaled for the captaincy this week. He's not like the clear standout. I think an Arsenal player or Mateta can rival him, but once again, it comes down to consistency and the trust in the alternatives, and I don't have that trust in the others. Having no Chelsea cover and no Mateta, it's tough. I changed my captaincy last seconds from Saka to Haaland. Well, good luck. I mean, In an ideal world, Haaland will score, but, City drop points. But yeah, in terms of no Chelsea cover, no Mateta, I can understand your concerns, but I think long-term Chelsea aren't really worth the investment. It's just for the next two. Chelsea Wolves, very late game for everyone, especially for Eastern Side Country. Yes, but that's just the schedule, right? This season we're getting a lot of 8 p.m. Saturday games. Yeah, Cherki was added to my watch list. So if you actually go to my transfer tips, I'm going to let this play out. You can see the updated ownership figures as well. Obviously, they might have changed a little bit whilst the stream went on. But Cherki was highlighted in this transfer tips video a few days ago as a player to add to the watch list. I wouldn't buy him for the next two against Liverpool at home and Newcastle away, but I think afterwards, if you can stomach the benchings and the reduced minutes, I think he's a great punt, Ryan Cherki, at 6.3 million, I believe. So, yeah, these are my classifications for all these players. Gyökeres is out until Gameweek 12, it looks like. Hopefully he's back for that North London derby. So I added 2 players to the watch list. Cherki, I think, is the main one, and Gameweek 13 is a great entry point for him. His goals and assist stats across all competitions are very impressive considering the minutes he has played, and 4 big chances created in about 200 minutes of game time in the Prem. Very, very impressive. The other player added was João Paulinho, oddly enough. He is right up there for FPL points scored amongst midfielders, and he's getting DEFCON quite consistently with 100 for the season. 2 goals and 1 assist doesn't, hamper things too much either. That's a decent return for a defensive midfielder. So very similar stats to Moises Caicedo, but the Chelsea player is obviously better overall, and in FPL, the same applies there. So there you go. That's my thoughts on Cherki. You saw his stats as well for the season. Very low ownership. I do like the look of him. But with any City asset except Haaland, minutes are always going to be a concern. I couldn't care less if Haaland scores. Still don't think many have gone different. In second, Dad's team, though, have gone Gabriel, captain, Salah, vice. Yeah, I just think, relatively speaking, his effective ownership will be lower. A lot of people in this live chat, for example, were asking about other captaincy options like Mateta, and I understand that. I think it's good to take him on, and hopefully we get diversity and different players, being consistent. Last cares before 2-week rest. Thank God. Let me just say that. I was going to say something else. Dylan, is O'Reilly a good option from Gameweek 13? If he continues to start, yeah. But just a few weeks ago, we saw Gvardiol left back, I believe. We also saw Stones and Ruben Dias in central defence. So it's not like an absolute nailed-on option, but he has been in good form. Hoping City beats Liverpool, Haaland gets a brace. This is according to Cylindra, by the way. And reach 100 Premier League goals, and hoping City get the win for Pep. Hopefully not. Draw will be perfect. And if I had to pick, yeah, Liverpool win. If you accidentally made some transfers, don't worry. They are only 4 points, and the long term might pay off. I have screwed up with captain 3 times this season. Yeah, the problem is if you make a lot of accidental transfers and you're taking a lot of hits, that's where you need to play the wildcard or free hit if you still have it. Ignacio says, pues me lo ha jugado a Saka capitán. Lo vi muy fino el otro día en Champions. Sí, jugó bastante bien. Hizo el penal y también tuvo oportunidades. Contra Burnley era un poquito decepcionante porque a Gyökeres, por ejemplo, le dio pases muy buenos y Saka tuvo chances muy claras y no pudo aprovechar. Pero sí, Saka está jugando bien, pero tiene que hacer más por lo que cuesta en FPL. Then relax 2 weeks, watch another sport. Yeah, you did say this a few days ago, or at least you presented it as a question, and I did say what I was planning to do, not watching any other sport. FPL challenge is tricky this week. How does your team look like? I'll go to that very soon. Don't spend it all at once, but have fun. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate the super chat, and a big up to all super chatters, members, patrons. Throughout the last couple of streams, you have shown a lot of support. Also to those that gifted memberships, and it's very much appreciated. But I definitely won't be spending the £2, which, by the way, YouTube take a lot of tax from. I won't be spending it all straight away. So no drugs, people. Thank you, Dylan, for the tips. All the best this game week. Likewise, Akil. Thank you very much. I am not in the mood to watch my country play now, especially what happened. As neutral fans, hoping United win, just to United's trying guy to cut his hair. Well, they're starting from 0 again, as you say. So, if I had to pick between United and Tottenham, probably United, because United aren't competing for titles now. Otherwise, it's a different story. But yeah, draw. Another example of a draw being a nice result. Otherwise, yeah, come on, United. Have you locked in your team? It's not locked in, no. So first and foremost, let me go through my scoreline predictions, just for those that didn't see it. A few people did ask towards the end of the stream. So, yeah, Tottenham 1, United 1. Originally, I did go for 2-1 Tottenham and then 1-1 Everton Fulham, but I've kind of switched those around. West Ham 3, Burnley 2. Sunderland 0, Arsenal 2. Chelsea 3, Wolves 1. Aston Villa 2, Bournemouth 2. Brentford 1, Newcastle 1. Crystal Palace 2, Brighton 1. Nottingham Forest 1, Leeds 0. And Man City 2, Liverpool 2. Now, in the last couple of weeks, I have gotten like 2 to 3 correct scoreline predictions in every single game week. Hopefully, I can continue that, maybe even better it and get to 4 or 5, but I am being greedy there. Let's now go to FPL Challenge before wrapping up. So, Pickford in goal, Gabriel, Salah, Haaland, Joao Pedro, Mateta. This week is about bonus points, but I'll be honest, this is not locked in. This could definitely change a little bit. And yeah, I could sell one of these players maybe and go to a midfielder. That's something I'm considering. With Pickford, for example, I'm not even sure. Based on my scoreline predictions, it might make sense to go for sells, but it's so difficult to make that sort of judgment call based on their performances this season. They kept a clean sheet on Thursday against Sturm Graz, so that could be a possible change. Then Salah making way potentially. It's just not looking great though. No, I'm not really too infused with this FPL Challenge team, but there you go. Let's captain Mateta, why not? Let's captain him. Yeah, Mateta captain. And there is still room for a few other modifications. Now, we are going to get the lineups very soon for Tottenham and Man United, so I might cover that very quickly and then wrap things up. My voice is a little bit, on the brink. I was out until very late last night. I got home, and instead of sleeping straight away, I was preparing the graphics for the stream, just updating them, because guess what? Prices happen at 1:30 a.m. I got home at that time, so yeah, it was a bit of a mad one. So hopefully I can do a stream later today, and yeah, if people want to watch, then that could be a chill late night session whilst watching Chelsea Wolves, which is such a stupendous game of football. I can't wait for that. And yeah, tomorrow, hopefully I can record one last FPL video, go on a little vacation, and then come back with more energy and, yeah, just ready for the second half of the season, you could say, and the Christmas period, which will be very, very hectic. Even during Christmas, Christmas Eve and stuff like that, I'll be recording videos, going live, all that good stuff. So expect plenty of content for FPL and use your fantasy as well. So yeah, in the next minute or so, we're going to get the Spurs and Man United lineups. I'll take a quick water break, answer a few more questions, and then call it a day. I'm also going to let my predicted lineups play out. Of course, there were a few things I highlighted, like Tavernier starting for Bournemouth over Cliver or Brooks. There are a few things that I'm a bit conflicted about, but just for those that missed it, I'm not going to read the names out again, otherwise that's going to be boring. I've already done it earlier in this stream. And I'll also get the lineups ready for you in the next section and screen. Okay, so I've got United's team. Just waiting a few more seconds for Spurs. So Tottenham, they still haven't posted it. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I'll have a look at Flash Score, who normally get the lineups. I'm not sure about early, but yeah, sometimes they're a bit quicker than SofaScore and all the other sites, for example. But don't think there should be a need. Tottenham still haven't posted. What are they doing? Moving like their football team against Chelsea. What? Who said that? That wasn't me. Yeah, well, I don't have Spurs' lineup. Who actually cares? But at least we've got United's, and yeah, there is actually 2 changes. So yeah, I got 9 correct for United. Just worth saying that now. I'm going to give Spurs Top Spur. Top Spur? What's that? No? Yeah, I'm giving them one more chance. Yeah, no, they still haven't posted their lineup. Absolute bottle jobs. Let's just go to Man United. So, Lamins in goal, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, Cunha, Dorgu, Ahmad, Casemiro, Mbuma, and Shaw. In fact, I might have gotten 8 correct. Yeah. So, no Dallo, no Euro, and that's weird. Okay. Yeah, no Sesko. Yeah, well, that's another big game where Sesko's benched, by the way. If you can call this a big game. No offense to any Spurs or United fans, just pointing out the obvious. Yeah, now they finally posted it 30 seconds ago, you absolute idiots. Yeah. All right, here we go. Here's top Spurs lineup. Vicario, Paulinho, Xavi Simons, Richarlison, Romero, Johnson, Bedro, Spence, Sarr, Van de Ven, Colomwani. So with this team as well, I've gotten 8 correct. They're starting Richarlison and Colomwani. That's something I did not anticipate. So they're going for something a bit more offensive. So yeah, Sarr, another surprise. Kudus isn't even on the bench. So it was down to a late fitness test. He obviously wasn't available. So Johnson does get the nod. Not a massive surprise there. So there you go. Sometimes looking at, all the information and stuff can actually be to your detriment, because before seeing that sort of update on Kudus and some predicted lineups, I was actually going to put Johnson in my 11. There you go. Not a great start when it comes to lineups, in my opinion. Typically with these two, I've been averaging 9 to 10, I'd say. So that's it. That's all covered. Go back to FPL Challenge for a little bit longer, answer a few more questions, and then let's call it a day. And we can get these ugly mugs off my screen. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. My dad's team, no Haaland, 91 points. It is possible, but very tricky right now. Yeah, definitely. That's for sure. No one's ever essential. There might be times like now with Haaland where you think that's the case. I think the biggest challenge when you tackle Haaland is the captaincy. You have to get it spot on week on week. Favoured Minter over Burn last minute and almost changed captain from Haaland to Sarr. Yeah, I think Minter over Burn is pretty reasonable. As for Haaland, Sarr captain, I'm not so sure. What shock result in the last matchday Champions League? Karabag 2, Chelsea 2. Well, maybe not, actually. Last week of Swedish Preds. I thought you were going to say Swedish Prats. I hope I win, leading the league all season, but just fell behind last 2 weeks. It's the last week. Well, good luck, mate. All the best. Well, I wish, mate. My Spanish is decent, but yeah, my English is much better, unfortunately. I'd like them both to be the same level, but maybe one day. Went with Cucurella captain over Saka. Good luck there. I'll be honest, I don't think that's a good one, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see how that pans out. Haaland and Salah hopefully get some returns, but I generally like the idea of captaining defenders this season. Yeah, I think that's true. Gabriel is the main one. I just think Chelsea could concede against Wolves, which is one of my surprising predictions for the week. Jordan says, top tier response, worth the money. Thank you very much. Enjoy the game week and all the best of luck for 11. Thank you very much for the super chat. I'm trying to access my FPL, but I'm getting this message. The game is updating and will be available soon. That's typical. People probably responded in the live chat already, but we get this every season. In fact, one of the good things from the new campaign is that they're updating the game quicker. Because in the previous years, they would take 40 minutes to an hour. I think now they're doing it a little bit, I don't know, a bit more snell, a bit more, a bit quicker. But there you go. Well, can I have more than one player in challenge? Yes, that's why I pointed it out earlier. I'm guessing you responded, or you said that after I pointed it out. But yeah, it's something they don't say. They don't make it clear. But once you try to bring in more Arsenal players or something, then it becomes pretty apparent, pretty crystal. Man United game will have loads of goals. 3-2 Spurs. Yeah, well. I was originally going for 2-2, I think. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I think I did say 2-1, then I was thinking, 2-2, and then I just said 1-1. So I'm kind of conflicted about that game. Palace prediction, lol. Captain Mateta, no. What? Maybe I'm going to jinx him. That's a good thing for you. Am I yet to make my transfers for this week, says Simon. Well, the game is locked, so you can't make any transfers now. That's done. So when the game updates again, that will be for Game Week 12, but that's a few weeks away with the international break. Banjo says, take a nap and come back, you legend. I was thinking about that, but I also don't want to miss the hate watch, Spurs and United. It's like, who do I hate more? Like, who do I want to lose? It's like, whatever happens, I'm just going to be happy. well, maybe not happy, but, you know, you'll enjoy it. Not sure I'll be able to watch the live stream. That's fair enough. I mean, I don't expect people to watch every live stream, but I do appreciate those that try their best. The time zone change at the end of the year, weird. It's always been a thing. I don't like it. It means basically less daytime. That's what it's called, daylight saving time. So by 4 p.m., maybe 5 sometimes, it's pitch black. It's just horrible. My challenge team is Vicario, Gabriel, and Dai, Caicedo, Han, and Welbeck. Looks good. Might change keeper, but to who? I mean, Sells is a very left field shout, to be honest. But, yeah, maybe you'd want to consider... That's a difficult one. Do you say Areola or Dubravka? Probably not. I've gone for a high-scoring game there. Apparently, Ruben Amorim and Diogo Dalot is related from their great-grandparents. Well, we saw the allegations or the links and the reports, and he probably said, okay, look, Dalot, I need to bench you, otherwise, you know, they're on to us. Wonder why Dalot always starts when the fans want him benched. I'm just saying, a few years ago, some United fans were saying, he's the best right-back in the country. And that just makes you laugh. You're like, come on, man. Like, I know we support our players and stuff, but that's just an outlandish take. Cunha is underrated. I mean, he was brilliant last season, and he's been playing relatively well now, but he's been signed for big money. And ultimately, for a forward, you need to get goals and assists. He hasn't been performing on that front, but he's a good player to watch. I'll give him that. And against Arsenal, he was probably their best player, alongside De Ligt. Mizrahi deserves a start over Dalot, obviously. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think anyone deserves a start over Dalot. The Lika family relation of Amorim and Dalot changed Amorim's mind. Yeah, I think so. I captain Saka Sai. We haven't seen how it panned out yet. Let's see. Going against Haaland captain at Etihad is tricky, but it is Liverpool. And City don't have the best of records against them in general. They obviously lost last season. Twister Parky says Spurs 1, United 1. Everton 1, Fulham 1. West Ham 2, Burnley 1. Sunderland 2. Sunderland 0. Arsenal 2. Yeah. Chelsea 2, Wolves 0. Villa 1, Bournemouth 1. Brentford 2, Newcastle 1. Palace 2, Brighton 2. And Forest 0, Leeds 0. City 2, Liverpool 2. Yes, that would be amazing. Honestly, that week, even if Chelsea win, whatever, I'd take that all day long. Igor Jesus, captain. That is very left field. All the best there. I think it'll be quite low scoring against Leeds, but maybe I'm wrong. 30 minutes, then it's done, says Banjo. I think Tottenham versus United is going to be a very high scoring game, an all-out boxing match. While both defences are quite poor, and the midfields are also quite easy to play through, generally speaking. If Mateta blanks and we win, I'll send you a gift. Yeah, look, honestly, I would like Mateta to blank. So, yeah, Brighton win, come on. And then Palace drop points. Yeah. But then it means no points for Lequel. Oh, what? Oh, I don't care about gay. So, why are you gay? Good luck with the game, Dylan. Hopefully a Cucurella goal in the reaction stream tonight. Well, yeah, all the best. If it means Wolves somehow get a famous win or draw. But yeah, that's asking for too much. They're not doing anything. Any United result other than win will make United Strand grow more than a Christmas tree. I mean, yeah, he just supported the wrong club. Even Celta Vigo are bantering United, which is crazy. They photoshopped him as a Celta Vigo fan, and they made him bold. That is insane. I'm going for Igor Jesus on challenge. Oh, that's probably what Ahmed meant, right? In FPL challenge. Yeah, I mean, why not? You can always go for something a little bit left field there. Definitely. Why is Amorim sticking with a 3-4-3? I've been through this when he was not getting results. I mean, it's his formation. You can give him credit for sticking to it, but I just don't think he offers enough tactical versatility. He's got a plan A, and if plan A doesn't work, there's no plan B. And the best managers in the world, they typically have a plan B. You could argue, well, not Pep in his prime or, you know, with that great Barca team, they only had one way of playing, but they were that good that 90% of the time it would, you know, be enough to win trophies. But yeah, with Amorim, that's his system since he was at Sporting. He's had a lot of success with it, but at United, it's a different story. Not good enough. I mean, you can flex the Manager of the Month award, but ultimately, it's just not good enough. Even this season, 5 wins out of 10 in the Premier League. That is not up to the standards of Man United. Vicario good for bonus. Yeah, Vicario's been good. I don't rate him too much as a keeper in general. I think he's quite weak with crosses and set pieces. And his distribution is quite questionable. But as a shot stopper, he's one of the best in the league. Yeah, and he's been saving Tottenham recently. Spurs against United, if only could place a bet on both teams to lose. Well, I've gone for a draw, and that's my kind of hope as well. If I had to pick a team, it'd be United. Um, I went Spurs 1, United 0. Fair enough. Yeah, for a second I was like, oh, we had the same prediction. The United strand might have his own card. Good for him. Made money from his hair. I'm not gonna lie, people make money from all sorts of stupid things nowadays, but it's trendy. He found something that works. Big up. But yeah, I just think any fool can become either famous or rich overnight, but that's just the world we live in. Enjoy the game week and the international break. Catch up with you after the break. Thank you, Cylindra. Likewise, Sunderland frightens me a bit for my triple Arsenal defence. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the time for triple Arsenal defence hasn't necessarily passed, but I think the clean sheet output will die down a little bit. I mean, as good as Arsenal are defensively, 8 consecutive clean sheets. They'll make an all-time record in English football by making it 9 today, and hopefully they do, but then it's Chelsea, Tottenham, Bayern in a week. That's very difficult to navigate, especially if the injured players aren't backed by them. I captain Anthony from Burnley. In FPL Challenge, fair enough. I just don't think that's a good idea in FPL, though. That little quote you did there made me laugh. That was an interview on news, wasn't it? Yes, it was. But I was saying Mark Gay, okay, before I get cancelled. I've replaced Vicario with Sanchez. What is your honest opinion about it, please? My honest opinion is that it's not really worth it. The best goalkeeper is Raya, and whilst I understand you have a triple up in Arsenal already, that's a possibility. And I understand why you sold Vicario, because they're bottom or near the bottom of the FDR for the next 5 game weeks. They've got horrible fixtures, but with Sanchez, after the next 2, it's Arsenal. They've got a few challenging games here and there. Yeah, with Sanchez, also very inconsistent with Chelsea. They conceded twice to Karabag. You just can't rely upon them defensively. So, look, I don't think Sanchez is a horrible goalkeeper in FPL. I started the season with him, and he's had a few good moments, but yeah, to replace Vicario, it's basically just going to be Raya for me. I bought in Thiago for Gyökeres, thinking maybe I should have rolled. Well, Gyökeres is probably out until game week 12 or 13. There's no guarantee he makes it for the North London derby, but hopefully he does. But yeah, with Gyökeres, what that can do now is give you enough funds to make upgrades elsewhere and bring in Saka, Mbumo, maybe premium defenders like Gabriel, Munoz, etc. Welcome, Han Flow Case. So Amarim favoritism, Dallo related, and Bruno has his past manager, but who would play him? Far and away United's best player. Yeah, Bruno's an unlikable character, but he is a good player. And he was a quality FPL asset once upon a time, like one of the very best. And that's what I mean, again, with Haaland, like before you had alternatives for the captaincy and real options. And even though Bruno's good now, he's not good enough to captain. But yeah, in terms of United, look, Diego Dallo, he's been overhyped by United fans before. Not all of them. I've got a friend who absolutely hates him. But yeah, football fans can be very fickle and reactionary. Enzo Maresca said last month, Sanchez will not always play Premier League games. Yeah, but come on, man. I mean, it's kind of weird if he was benched now against Wolves at home. Look, I wouldn't put it past him, but this is also one of the issues of Chelsea. I mean, how do you expect consistency, challenging for a league, and getting clean sheets if you just keep changing your back four and your goalkeeper? That should be settled. And ultimately, Chelsea should have invested in a top goalkeeper like Donnarumma, who was available, by the way. That would have been a game changer for the Blues. But yeah, until they improve that defensive line and their goalkeeper, Chelsea are not going to win the Premier League. That's just the way I see it. Who wouldn't? Lol, not would, says Twisted Parky. Prediction for Arsenal Bayern game? It depends on the injuries. If Arsenal can get the likes of Gyökeres, Martinelli back, I'd be fairly confident. It's at home. I know Bayern have a great record against Arsenal, but at the Emirates, Arsenal had a few good victories against them, even at the Allianz once upon a time against the treble-winning Bayern side. But this is a different Arsenal. It's not the one that would get battered by big teams consistently, with no tactics, no direction, nothing. So, look, I'm going to be optimistic, and right now I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal, but I think it's best to ask me closer to the day, because Bayern are the best attacking team in the world, Arsenal are the best defensive team, and I think right now, you could say they're the 2 best teams in the world, but things change very quickly. I think PSG are still up there, Real Madrid, Barca to a certain extent, but I think they're a level below the others, in my opinion. Ben the farm on Bruno in the first match. He's in my top 10 captaincy options. I hope he does well. So that means FPL points, it means Spurs tiers, and a lot of other things there. Jorgensen's not playing in the Premier League anytime soon. Well, that's the thing. The quote by Maresca last month, which Easy referred to, is that Jorgensen can play Premier League, Carabao, Champions League matches. But yeah, I still think Sanchez is first choice, and Maresca loves Sanchez for some reason. Yeah, exactly that. I echo Twisted Parky's sentiments. And yeah, thank you to everyone who has been tuning in. We are very close to 150 likes. Let's be sure to get to that before the end of the stream. Big up to everyone who has tuned in from the beginning. It's a very early one. I'll be honest, I wish this stream or this deadline was a little bit later and I was starting right now. But there you go. Even with little sleep and yeah, a little late night shenanigans, I'm still here. And hopefully, yeah, you'll be here for the next reaction stream, which could be tonight. Just so keep your eyes peeled for that. What's your take on that Luis Diaz stupid tackle? Oh yeah, you're Moroccan, right? So yeah, of course you're going to hate that. That can also impact Hakimi in the AFCON. So look, with it's kind of funny. I saw some Bayern fans say that's not a red card and stuff. So yeah, it's funny how people think, right? But I'm happy, to be honest. Not with him injuring Hakimi, but I'm happy that he got sent off because he's missing the Arsenal game. So I'm looking at it from a biased perspective, to be honest. But yeah, Diaz is a bit of a nutcase. Let's put it that way. He's got some quality moments, but he's also got a bozo gene in him. I feel sick. Not sure if it's the tea, need breakfast, or because I have Palace in my team this week. Hopefully selling one more Chelsea. Now just one left will make me feel better. But it's Burnley away next. So the way I think of it, if you have players from a team you hate, you either jinx them or you get points. But either way, I'm leaving with something, as Denzel Washington says. Merino hat-trick or brace coming soon? Probably, because I didn't buy him. And that was a 1 week punt that was staring me in the face. I hate 11 a.m. deadlines after a long week at work. Yeah, same here. I'm not sure, Native Faith. Probably not. I'm kind of lost interest in F1. I was really engaged in the 2021 season when it was Hamilton against Verstappen. Like, that's one of the best F1 seasons in a while. I know Verstappen's making it slightly entertaining now against the McLarens, but yeah, I think Norris, unless he bottles it or fumbles it big time, he should win the championship. For me, that was a DS red card. So many Bayern fans think not. Yeah, I mean, look, Bayern, top team, but low-key, I'm just saying, they do get a few questionable decisions in the Champions League. Not to the level of Real Madrid and Barca, but yeah, low-key, I think Bayern do get a few weird calls in their favour. Obviously, that one didn't go there, but yeah, who cares? Imagination, some unexpected players to go big points this game week. Marino, playing up front, differential. And because I didn't buy him. If I bought him, he probably would have blanked. Yeah, we know how that goes. 3 a.m. pint. Good morning, brother, says Apollo. Yeah, good morning. Wait, is this... I'm trying to think, because I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he said that he watches some of the streams and stuff, and I'm just wondering, like, who is it? Because he also said he puts comments in, so I need to identify. This could be the one, Apollo's World, but maybe I'm just making up a scenario in my head. Sorry, 2 Palace, not 2 in my team. Yeah, fair enough. Oh yeah, 2 Palace against Brighton. Yeah, that's not a great feeling, is it? I even captained Vardy once upon a time against Arsenal when we were really crap. Captain Reece James, all the best, Ethan. There is a chance he doesn't start. Just my honest opinion. But hopefully in your case he does get the nod. Thoughts on Rashford's season so far? Oh, he's been impressive, but Rashford's very hit and miss, right? He's either brilliant or very frustrating. There's no in-between with Rashford. But yeah, he's been a good signing for Barcelona. That doesn't mean he should go back to United, though. That's a different environment, and he won't necessarily succeed there long-term. But yeah, I think Barcelona will try to sign him if he continues this way. Someone from the future will captain an unexpected player this game week. Or just people with second or third teams, like I've said multiple times. You know, it's not just a question of getting lucky, which sometimes you need to either win the manager of the week or whatever it is, or manager of the month. But yeah, sometimes people just go for a second, third team, maybe fourth, in the hopes that they win those sort of awards. I'm thinking of going triple Palace. Is there a nurse in the building? Someone check my vitals. Yeah, I think a double up is the sweet spot. And I'm quite concerned about Palace. Some of the things that Glasner is saying are very, very strange. For example, he said something like Lacroix told him that he's feeling tired. And this was before the Europa Conference League game, I believe. But he's basically saying, no, yeah, he's going to play on Sunday. And with Ismail Assar, he had tightness in his hamstring. Yeah, he scores a brace and he plays the game against who are in the Europa Conference League. These things are not what you want to hear from a manager. And you see their schedule in December, something they're not used to at all. Yeah, he has to rotate more. That's for sure. Need a Kukrela Hall. It's a long time coming tonight. Well, good luck to you and your FPL team, but I'll be honest, I would not mind Chelsea losing, conceding. Yeah, and I got Sanchez in goal. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I think Chelsea should win quite comfortably. We should petition FPL to allow only one team per person. It ruins the game having multiple ones. Oh, yeah. Now, there are some people who will, like, even in this chat, they say they've got a family team and they're, like, managing the squad for their family member. I think that's fine. But then their family member might be like, oh, just whatever, I don't care anymore. And then the other person like, oh, this is my second team now. But yeah, I think that's fine in general. But when people like actively have a second, third team and, you know, they get a really good rank from it, or they just do this kind of weird things to get the manager of the month and stuff like that, it's just like, what's the point? We play a wrong game strategy, Dylan. I'm not sure what you mean, to be honest. Hey, Dylan, it's the first time you've answered me in over 2 years of watching your content. I'll be honest, I find comments like these very weird, really weird. And I also get this in like a really busy live stream where I'm answering hundreds of questions, by the way, and I don't deliberately ignore anyone. But just to let you know, and I do put it in pinned comments, I say it in the live chat, and moderators also remind people, if you ask a question that's already been answered, the question may be skipped. Like, that's just something that's kind of typical. Otherwise, we're just going to say the same thing. Would I captain Haaland or Mateta? I'm going to say Haaland. Haaland, Mateta, Haaland. And I just have to keep on repeating myself time after time again. And yeah, people sometimes get like passive aggressive about it. It's really, really strange. But I try my best, right? Everyone's got their own sort of system. The way I do things is answer things in order of submission. A major perk of members and, you know, super chatters is the fact that they will be prioritized over everybody else. But I don't deliberately ignore anybody. If you are spamming, there's a good chance that you'll be either timed out, maybe even banned, or, you know, the fact that I'm going to go to someone who's not spamming, who's being patient, and he deserves to have his question answered, or her question answered. So, yeah, whatever, I'll just move on from that. Why the hell is Glasner saying all this? It's probably a double bluff. He is smart. Loads don't say much. Well, Arne Slot is also a smart man, but he's saying some really weird things in his press conferences as well that kind of give you the blueprint to beat Liverpool. So then he says things like, oh, Villa and Real Madrid played the way we expect them to. That's why we won. Well, you're a manager, mate. You're supposed to set your team up to predict what the other team is going to do and, you know, win the game. You can't just let or, you know, expect people to play a certain way to then beat them. It's a very weird comment. Too careful with this player pick, says Easy. Well, yeah, for example, in my case, I could have bought Marino for Reinders. Looks amazing, right? But then who do I bench? And you've got that benching dilemma. Then you've also got only one free transfer going into an international break. I know I got the wild card, but it's still good to have more free transfers at your disposal because then you can use that just before Gameweek 16, where everyone gets 5 available moves anyway. How does Munoz play 90 minutes at that speed every match for Palace at 29 years old? Is he the real robot in the Premier League? Well, Munoz is a good player, but his biggest attribute is his stamina. You know, that's what kind of separates him from most players in the Premier League. But he did get a rest, actually, in the Europa Conference League, which is well overdue. That's why I went Haaland this week, because if I didn't, you would all know I am from the future. Ops cats out of the bag. This is a free game. People can do whatever they want. This is not a serious matter. It's just FPL, says Ricardo. Well, it's a game. You've got to enjoy it, right? So, yeah. That's why I don't tell people you have to do this, you have to do that. I'm just offering my opinion. And I always encourage people to do what they want, to, you know, back their gut. And I tell people not to copy. I think the worst thing you can do in FPL, UCL Fantasy and all these fantasy games is copy. How are you going to improve or, you know, learn from mistakes and stuff like that if you're just copying what someone else does? I don't get it. John Duran was out with injury for 2 to 3 months, but scored a crazy game-winning volley off the bench against Besiktas in the derby last week. Might want to see it, mate. Yeah, I'll have a look. I was never a big fan of John Duran. Like, he's a very maverick player. But yeah, very inconsistent. And yeah, the fact he went to Saudi Arabia so quickly, and obviously then went to Turkey, yeah, it's kind of mad. Yeah, exactly that, Jonah. I don't even remember seeing the questions before. And there are some trolls, by the way. The amount of times people ask a question, I answer it, it's highlighted as well, by the way. So there's like 2 different ways of like understanding that I'm going through the question, and they still ask it again. And not just that, they'll do it again and then again at different points. Sometimes it's back to back. There's not much I can do. I try the best I can to make sure people have the questions answered and that they're aware that they're answered. But there are people who also have like multiple streams on at the same time. So they'll have one muted, but they'll still be spamming. Like, it's just a weird thing that people do. But whatever. I won't pass judgment. Do what you want to do. Maybe we should just pick players without pressure. Just pick immediately without thinking. I'll be honest, I think one of the biggest appeals of FPL is thinking about things and making decisions. Sometimes it'll go tits up, sometimes it'll go well. But if I just roll the dice all the time, or flip the coin, or just said, oh, Marina, like, that's not really how I want to do things. Thank you to Stepaki. He does his best. 100 messages. Look at other content creators. Loads ignore everyone unless they pay. I mean, I'm not going to say much, but you are kind of hitting the nail on the head there. Brother, you work hard, top tier content. Thank you very much. And by the way, I'm not seeking reassurance of stuff, because I'm pretty sure either Ethan or someone else watching is like, but yeah, I mean, I think what Twisted Parky says is pretty much spot on. And I do find that, by the way, whenever I'm like focusing more on my team and I go silent for just a few seconds or minutes, that would actually benefit me in terms of I get less work done, I cover fewer questions, I can focus more on myself, and then, yeah, people will like either become a member or super chat. But that's not the way I want to do things. I want to do things naturally. One of the biggest kind of appeals of this channel is the fact that I'm interactive. But yeah, when people start to get passive aggressive and say, oh, you don't answer my questions, you skip it, it's just very weird. Like, that's not the case. If you're patient and you don't spam, you're going to get your question answered. But just wait a little bit. Calm down. I'm not a robot, even if I might seem like one. This is my team: Sels, Calafiori, Gabriel, Richard, Sarr, Indai, Saka, Semenyo, Voltemada, Mateta, Haaland. I like Sels this week, but long term, yeah, he's been an absolute bum this season. I'm not going to lie to you. I like the team overall. I don't think you need to make a transfer, so I understand why you've set up that way. But in future weeks, yeah, Sels is a sell. Voltemada could still be held on to, but yeah, there might be another forward that really stands out. Obviously, you've got Haaland and Mateta already, so that's fine. I would like Munoz. And there are some question marks about Calafiori, because Lewis Kelly started twice in the Champions League. Hincapie got the nod against Slavia Prague on Tuesday, and he also started against Brighton. He's getting more minutes and match sharpness, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Hincapie be the starting left-back for Arsenal at some stage. So that could be a concern. But what you could do is Sels to Raya and Calafiori to Munoz, maybe. Now, that would mean doubling up on Palace defensively, but you've also got Van Dijk, for example, if you're willing to go big at the back. FPL is like gambling, but the cost is purely your time. Yeah, that's true. There are similarities with gambling, and I actually spoke about this with a friend overnight. But yeah, as long as people don't like monetize it, like Fan Team, for example, and there's a few other games like that where you have to pay, and there's also like a prize pool. But yeah, that's why I think a lot of gambling companies and stuff are attracted towards FPL and, you know, sponsoring stuff. So yeah, that is a good point. Thank you very much, by the way. Video, sorry, FPL Hippie from Blue Sky. Yes, Blue Sky, I'll be honest, like I've only started recently, but like those numbers are quite low. So you're one of the people that I interact with there, and I do appreciate it, you know. Yeah, people who kind of are there from the beginning, yeah, you kind of remember them a little bit more. So big up to you. Hey Dylan, how did your UCL week go? Not great. I'll be honest, I haven't checked my overall yet. Once I set up the graphics for match day 5 over the next week or so, I'll see what my rank is, but I'm guessing I got a red arrow, so I'm just outside the top 10k. That'd be my prediction, but it was a disappointing week, yeah. Thank you, Fenerbahce. Good luck with the game week. FPL's not that good anymore. People are just copying other creators' teams. No differentials, just straight copying. People have said this for a while, though, and it seems to get worse. But then again, when was FPL good then? I think if you play the game your way, like whether you do badly or you do well, I think that's the way you got to go. I try to just deliberately ignore what other people are doing. So if I see a post from another content creator or something, I'll just try to not like pay attention to it, because I don't want to be influenced by what other people are doing. I want to just have my own, set path. A frustrating thing, though, is that typically I'm going for maybe obvious transfers or things that seem very simple and logical, but I might think of something and it turns out someone else is doing the same thing, or it's like the template move this week, like buying Mateta, just to name one example. So, yeah, all you can do is really follow your own path, go for differentials if need be, but the problem this season is the fact that Haaland's the only premium who is doing consistently well. No one else is. Whilst in previous years, we've had Watkins, we've had Bruno Fernandes, Saka, Salah, and a few others there, like Cole Palmer. Just hit team value 103 million with 0.8 in the bank. That's decent. And that can change very quickly once you make transfers or wildcard. Imagine FPL as an Olympic sport. Man, that's impossible. Like, even if you say darts isn't a sport or, snooker, whatever it is, yeah, at least there's some exercise. What are we doing? Clicking a button. Yeah, let's not go all the way to the other spectrum. Come on. Just joined, so don't know if you answered, but thoughts on Marino as a 1 week punt. I was very keen on him. Yes, if you're wildcarding in 12 or 13, I think Marino is the perfect 1 week punt. I really like him, actually. If Gyökeres is back after the international break for the North London derby, I think Marino won't start. He will be a squad player again. But for Gameweek 11 only against Sunderland, yeah, I like him. That might be my regret this week. Not getting him in ultimately would have resulted in a big benching headache. Probably Voltemada dropping first there. I mean, in hindsight, looking back now, I wish I kept the bench boost. I bought Marino now for Rangers, and then I bench boosted Voltemada. That will get more points than what I did last week. But yeah, it is what it is, right? You can't regret the decisions. I felt like it was a good use of the bench boost in Gameweek 10, but yeah, Marino is definitely a good 1 week punt. Yeah, Calafuri will start. I'm not denying that. The point I'm saying is, if we're looking long term, I don't think Calafuri is nailed on at left back. Also bearing in mind his injury record, but so far so good. He's stayed fit. Long may that continue. People think if subs and captain changes are introduced, it will mean much more time invested in the game. No way I don't spend much time on Champions League, and why not? Because I can manage my team, make changes. I get that. It does require micromanagement. It will be too much for casuals who are already struggling with a deadline per week, and during the Christmas period, 2 deadlines within a week and stuff like that. But yeah, I still think it's another element of the game. Being engaged, giving more time to it, and, having decisions to make about who to bring on, changing captain. I think that's interesting, in my opinion. But it is a use your fantasy sort of thing. You can definitely argue it won't fit league football as well as it does with tournament football. So there's always a debate to be had, and it would then become very similar to use your fantasy, which I would love, but then it would kind of take away the appeal of FPL, which is its simplicity and also the differences between this and UCL Fantasy. Thank you, Ellie, or Ellis, I should say. That said, I think it's important people try to support Dylan, but it's not easy for all to afford for each comment. Oh yeah, no, definitely. I'm not expecting people to, having to do something, but yeah, I get your point on what you're saying there. But ultimately, in terms of the content, continuing long term, it all is based on your support. Ultimately, watching the ad revenue, sponsorships, and then ultimately the super chats and all of that stuff. And I appreciate everyone who has contributed towards the channel's growth and kept things going. Are we playing our strategy game wrong, Dylan? Yeah, I've covered that before. I'm not going to change the way I play. I will learn from things that I feel like I've done wrong, but I don't think, like, if you feel you're playing the game wrong, you've got to change your approach. That's the way I look at it. I don't feel that way. Brunch time, all the best, Dylan, and a bunch of thanks as always. Thank you very much. I'll have lunch fairly soon, actually. I'm already starving, to be honest. Is it bad if I chose Minter over Rice or Enzo? He's a good option. I'll be honest, though, I prefer Rice long term. And for the next 2, Enzo looks very appealing. My UCL was not bad apart from Dumfries captain. Yeah, look, I still got over 60 points, but compared to the previous 100 pointers, it pales in comparison. I captained Haaland, but even that was a bit underwhelming. Yeah, I missed out on a few big hitters like Marino, Osimhen, for example. Who do you think is going to be the Gameweek 11 star? Maybe Marino. And I hope he is, if it means that Arsenal win. Copying is pointless, no satisfaction if you didn't make the decisions. But people do that. They see it as like, oh, this guy makes videos. He might have a certain amount of subscribers. If I copy him, I'm going to do well. That's not always the case. Sometimes the content creator you copy will have a bad season. And then, I've had examples, by the way, where I've seen it on other videos back when I was just like a viewer, or even on my own content, people are like start hating on you because you're doing badly and they copied you. I even got a comment once, which is so weird, and I just laughed at it. I didn't even like get affected by it. I just found it astounding. Someone said something like, "I don't watch football. I'm in a mini league, and I was copying you, and you're doing so like I don't know what exactly he said, but he basically said, and I'm doing terribly." He's like, "Thanks a lot," and he's like, "I'm never copying you again" or something. It's like, what are you doing? Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, that's one of the funniest comments I've ever gotten, and that was a few years ago now. I think maybe last year. It's incredible the way people think, but yeah, if you're playing FPL UCL fantasy, make your own decisions, mate. Like, don't copy someone else. If you had a video game, like, let's say, I don't know, is FIFA a good example? Just any video game, even Dark Souls or something like that, Elden Ring. Are you just going to give the controller to someone else and let them do the, do everything for you? Get the platinum? Come on, do it yourself. Improve as a player. It's ridiculous how people think, but there you go. Everyone's different. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, to John Laws. I appreciate the kind contributions and words. Have a good weekend. You do a great job. I appreciate that very much. And all the best for Gameweek 11. Hopefully, we have a great end to the first half of the season, you could say. I mean, there is still a little while until we get to the second half of the campaign, but we do have an international break yet again. That's where we can recharge the batteries and go again fully for UCL Fantasy and FPL. So big up to yourself. FPL Olympics version, but we choose to play for Olympic men football games. That's just not going to work, mate. Maybe a good idea for a TV show or something. I mean, look, to be honest, Easy, I've sometimes made a risky decision and it's backfired, but I try not to let that impact my future decisions. So, yeah, if you feel like you're too careful with your player picks, then you can be more aggressive if you want. But, for example, with Marino, I explained my thought process already. That would have been a massive differential, something left field. But having said that, I explained the reasons why I decided to roll, and I feel like long-term it will pay off. I agree, FPL needs subs, differential bonus, captain changes to improve it, but 12 million players, so doubt they change it that much. Yeah, ultimately FPL will appeal to the casuals, so I don't see them doing that. But DEFCON is a step in the right direction, and yeah, they've made some good changes this season. I don't think AFCON transfers is good, though. That will make the period so-called easier to navigate in most situations, but sometimes making transfers will be to the detriment of the player using them. No points for penalties will break the template for FPL. I think no points for penalties would be harsh, but it maybe should be fewer points. So instead of 4 points for a goal for a forward, you get 3 points. For a midfielder, you get 4 points. And by the way, Salah is clearly a forward, in real life. He's not a midfielder. Stuff like that would also help to, level the playing field a little bit. Everyone who copied each other this year, going for Salah instead of Haaland, etc., hasn't done well this year. So glad I follow my own path. Currently 8k in rank. Well, the thing is, though, even if someone is like 200k now, that's not a bad rank, in my opinion. It's all relative, and the gaps between where you are, for example, and let's say 100k is still very fine. So it's a very long season. There's a long way to go. That's the thing, though, with Erling Haaland, for example. Even last season, it would have been the other way around. People started with Haaland, and he was on fire, but then Salah became the clear best asset until Gameweek 30, for example. So it's very easy to say things in hindsight, but next season, we might go the other way around and say, oh, everyone's going for Haaland, let me go Salah, and then Salah just doesn't push on. So, yeah, I think that's a very hindsight comment, to be honest. Dylan, what's your best overall rank in a season and worst? Best in FPL, I think, is 13k, I think. In UCL Fantasy, I've got 2 800 finishes, so top 800. But yeah, in FPL, I've consistently finished top 70k, which isn't amazing, but I think that's quite solid. The last year or two have been quite frustrating and also, yeah, the worst I've actually had. So just outside the top 100k, which is, yeah, not good enough the way I see it. I always try to improve upon the previous season's rank. But yeah, the last year or so has been a bit challenging. No points for penalties makes no sense at all. It's a goal. Yeah, I agree. I think fewer points is definitely a shout. Maybe, for example, 3 points for a forward. No points is a step too far. Limitless or wildcard in matchday 5. That is team dependent, but I would say limitless in many situations. That's what I'll probably be doing. Free hit in Gameweek 15. very team dependent. You got to use FPL.team, visualize your squad, and see how the fixtures look like for every single game week. But ultimately, I wouldn't say no. I think that could work. Just bear in mind, by game week 15, we could see rotation, reduced minutes, and a few frustrations here and there. But for those with triple captain, for example, I'd go for Erling Haaland against Leeds in game week 13. Free hit 15 looks fine. Maybe bench boost in game week 17, but once again, very team dependent. Game week 16 could also work with 5 free transfers because of AFCON. Wildcard game week 12 or 13, though, in most scenarios. I can't stress that enough. Hey, this game takes hand and eye coordination, plus been doing finger pull-ups for those button presses. Yeah, maybe I've been too harsh, maybe. I think not being able to make changes makes us spend so much time and stress over FPL. Yeah, that's true. That is true. It's also an element of the game, right? Oh, I benched this guy. Oh, I captained this player when I should have captained this. I think it's part of the fun, but not when it always goes against you, which some people might feel like. Esports should be Olympics. Skateboarding, sports, climbing, surfing already in Olympics. I don't think so. Esports is just, yeah. I mean, even the term esport is crazy, in my opinion. Like, it's competitive, but come on, it's not a sport. Hopefully a Van der Ven brace for lunch. No. Brace of own goals? Yes, we will be there. United draw or win? Yes, 100%. I'm ahead of 80% of the creators I follow. Well, that's what I mean. But if you copied them, would you be ahead of them? No, you wouldn't. So that's why following your own path is the best thing you can do. Otherwise, you're limiting yourself to what someone else will do. That is the worst thing you can do as an FPL manager. There are more chances that FPL in Olympics than GTA getting released. I think it might get delayed again, you know, to 2027. Fun fact, once Tiddlywinks was in the Olympics. I did not know that. Hi Dylan, I hope Norris or Piastri will win tomorrow since I am overall 300 and I'm betting against Verstappen in Brazil. Verstappen loves the rain. Well, I'm backing Norris to win the championship. I mean, he's got a bit of momentum now. McLaren still have the best car, at least over the course of the season. And I don't know how to feel about that because Verstappen's my favourite driver right now, but I also don't want him breaking Schumacher's records, even though they've been matched by Hamilton, essentially, and broken in some. But yeah, out of the three, Verstappen's my favourite, so I'm going to stick with him. But I'm not sure if he will win it. I think Norris will probably do it. Dylan is UCL and FPL Gandalf. Follow him. Wow, I've never been compared to Gandalf before. I mean, Gandalf the Grey, but then, you know, the homophobics will say something else. Let me not say it, but yeah. Big up Gandalf. I've actually got a pop vinyl, Funko Pop of him, just above my head. I wish I was brave enough to bring in Delap this week. I think he scores and no one has him. But what about the future weeks where he could be benched and stuff? But fair enough. I mean, I've got a similar situation with Marino, so we could feel the same way by the end of the game week. Hopefully Delap blanks. Apparently some of the long service employees get fired for no reason. That's why GTA 6 released. Sorry, I lost the chat. YouTube is very funny. Sometimes it literally just closed the chat on me. Let me just get that up again. So I'm just going to answer a few more, by the way, and then wrap things up because I have been going live for a while, and the plan is to go live for the reaction stream. Probably tonight. That is the plan. If my voice is good enough, then I will be there. We would be there. So let me just get this question up again. Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of the exact reason, but it's just too much hype for the game now, and they need to do something extraordinary to deliver, and they're going to make a lot of sales. It's the most popular video game of all time, or it will be, but I'm a bit worried. It's a bit like Cyberpunk, which had so much hype, then it had the issues at launch. By the way, that game is amazing. I played it, luckily, after all the crap went down, and yeah, Cyberpunk is one of my favorite games, but yeah, with GTA 6, I could see a similar situation, maybe even worse. I got 10k UCL Fantasy last season. That's a very good rank. Yeah. Yeah, last season was actually quite poor for me in UCL. I say poor, relatively speaking, but yeah, consistently I finished top 10, 20k, and usually it's top 5. So I'm trying to get to that again this season. I don't think picking Salah is about copying everyone. He is a legend. Who wouldn't think to go for him? He also had decent opening fixtures, and by the way, he started okay, but Erling Haaland just was on another level. But for the first 2 game weeks, I mean, it was basically neck and neck. My best rank, 26k last season, should have been 5k but screwed up. This season, 4.6 million. Still too early to judge though. I know it's difficult, but the best thing you can do is ignore the rank and just focus on your transfers. And yeah, once you get to the second half of the season, you can start to say, okay, I need differentials. I need to do something different. But it's also about the combination of players. You might have some template options, but you might have, for example, Gabriel and Timber, whilst people just have Gabriel, which is what I basically had until recently. If FPL was as easy as copying content creators, man, that would be one boring game with the same outcome for everyone every week. People copy mostly because of the fear of missing out. Well, that's one element of it, but as I mentioned before, there are some people who copy because they believe it's a guarantee for success to win their mini leagues against people who aren't as engaged in FPL as they are because they're copying what other people do. But if you're literally doing move for move what someone else is doing, well, you might win the league, you might win the battle, but not the war. Favorite non-Arsenal player? Is this of all time or now? Because if it's of all time, it's Messi, Maradona. Very simple answers. And that's because I'm Argentinian. Expecting Chelsea to roll over meaningless Wolves. Took a risky Joao Pedro Campsey bet. Yeah, Wolves have been a bogey team for Chelsea though, and I'm hoping that's the case, despite my Chelsea double up. Okay, favourite non-Arsenal player in the world, Dylan. Okay, yeah, you did say that in the comment before. Yeah, I'm going to say Messi. Bit of a boring answer. If I could say somebody else, or if I have to say someone else, I'll be honest, I'm not really infused with the current generation of footballers. Like, I like Musiala and Yamal, but yeah, Yamal, his character's a bit, yeah, the things that kind of put me off him as a player. Yeah, good to watch. I'm not going to deny that. Favorite player? I like Pedri. Would I say he's my favorite? Probably not. I'm not going to say a City player or Liverpool, just saying. Definitely not going to say Chelsea, United or Spurs, so forget about that. Harry Kane, no. He's very efficient, probably the best striker in the world, but he's definitely not my favourite. So the list is kind of narrowed down here. That's a difficult question. If you asked me this like 5 years ago even, I would have easily said, I mean, look, I'm just going to say Messi. Why not? Until he retires, he's the best player, so. What made you start making FPL videos? Well, I was still at uni, and this was like early 2020, and then I basically just started, I just had the idea of starting a YouTube channel, and I started making different pieces of content. I did stuff about Arsenal, Premier League predictions, I did FPL, gaming, and then I started analysing the data, seeing what people were most interested in, what drove the most growth, and it was FPL, and I was enjoying it. So at the beginning, the graphics were very basic. I had a very poor microphone as well, but it's about starting, you know, getting that off, not thinking too much about what people think, and just growing the numbers. And yeah, I think by September, already got to like 1K, which isn't a lot, but you know, it's quite a lot for a small channel for a beginner. And yeah, from there on, I was just consistent at it for the last 5 years now. UCL Fantasy and FPL have been covering it every single season, but that's basically how it started. I captain Haaland as his ownership is high, and I'm scared of missing out. That's also, yeah, a key thing which people pointed towards in previous comments. Fear of missing out is a big thing. I mean, to be fair, that was your own comment, but yeah, it's not a great way of playing FPL. You could argue that's the reason why I captain Haaland, but I have to stress this. The key reason why I keep captaining Haaland is because of the lack of alternatives who are consistent. Sackable, yeah, he could do well, and I hope he does. Pedro captain for me, confirmed. All the best with your FPL team. Don't think I've ever had a good start to FPL. I normally recover around the Christmas period. I play to differential at the start, hoping for that elusive great start, but never happens. Well, look, I'm not saying you should play template, but if you keep going differential and you feel like it's not going well, it might be worth going for something a little bit safe, maybe boring at the beginning, get a feel for the season, and then you can start introducing differentials once you have more data. I think that's the way to go then. That's something for you to bear in mind for future seasons. I usually start quite well. For the first 2-3 game weeks, I'm like top 200k, which for me is a great start. And then I start to tail off until game week 8 or 9. But this season's a bit different. I had like a rough period between game week 2 to 5 maybe. And then I triple captain Haaland in 6, and I started going on a massive upward trajectory. I've gone up by a few million, but like I said before, it's a very fine margins between where I am and 4 million, and the same goes for top 10k as well. Yeah, I think Califrey will start. Long term, though, he is not the most secure. Also going for Champions League. For FPL subs, will remove most lucky hauls off the bench, which I never benefit from. Oh yeah, don't even get me started. I've had a few lucky hauls off the bench, but never like Mickey van der Ven 23 points or something like that. Hamilton's massive drop-off, a surprise. He is 40 though, and I know it's racing, and you might be like, well, it's not that physical, but I think F1's a bit more physical than people realize, you know, with the G-force, all this stuff, you know, the scientific... I'm not a scientist, by the way. People say I'm not. But yeah, there's a lot of things... did I even say that right? I don't think I did, but whatever. G-force. It's probably like fucking hamsters or something. Anyway, yeah. Hamilton, he's still one of the best drivers of all time. Statistically, he is the greatest, but yeah, I still think a lot of people would be hesitant to put him in like a top 3 or 5. Mainly non-British people, I'd say. But yeah, Hamilton is still, you know, a good driver. He's not suddenly crap. It's also about being familiar with the car, and a lot of it is to do with the science behind it, you know, the building of the car. That's equally as important. Well, actually, screw that. It's more important than the driver. That can be the defining quality, like Verstappen, you know, taking Red Bull, who was second or third quickest, to wins and stuff. That is also the extra push you need. Schumacher's done it as well, but yeah, the most important thing is the car, unfortunately. EFL Fantasy, I'm 1k at the moment. Yeah, really good rank. I'm not sure how many people play it, but still very good. Who's the best captain for Gameweek 12? We'll get to that when the time comes, but probably Haaland. Hey Dylan, update on my challenge team. I'm 22nd in the world, going for that number 1 spot. I'm so far ahead in your league. It's crazy. Well, that's really well played, and yeah, great rank. Just gotta keep on going though. Pedro captain, also Caicedo only performs in away or more difficult matches, hence Defcon and counters. Well, that's why I said in some situations Caicedo could be benched. I did go for my Gameweek predictions already, but I'll just leave them on screen for you. But just bear in mind the questions won't be highlighted in this segment. The new FM also not getting good reactions. I'm not surprised. The day FM signed a deal with Netflix, the game goes off. Need Football Manager for free for everyone. Yeah, well, I've got FM24, which I haven't even played much of. I had a good start to my Arsenal career, but yeah, got to play it more. Well, most seasons I start well but finish poor. You said poo, by the way. Maybe you meant that. Hopefully this year the opposite. Yeah, consistency is the most important, but you will have off weeks, and it's about how you react to those off weeks. Don't jump the gun and just undo everything you've, you know, basically built until that point. As a former Gunner, do you have a soft spot for Welbeck? Like, I don't mind Welbeck. That guy Welbs, as we used to call him. But at the stadium, when I went against Brighton, Arsenal fans were clapping him when he came on. I'm like, come on, man. Like, he's an opposition player. What if he scores against us and makes it 1-1? Or, you know, he brings it level to 2-2. Like, nah. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to do that. But after the game, yeah, hunky-dory, clap, Welbeck, well done. Okay, pause. Because whatever you say, oh, pause. Oh, don't be suspect. Like, whatever. Yeah. Clap, as in, you know, clap, show appreciation, whatever. The best idea you had, Dylan, says Banjo. Thank you very much. What was the idea? What was the idea? I don't even know at this point. Maybe about the forward points or the penalty stuff. Worst captain ever for me, Dennis at Watford. Oh, yeah. I think I captained him, but not triple captain him, thankfully. Can you remember your best ever gut feeling transfer? I think one of mine was Gordon when he did really well and scored a brace. I don't think he ever scored a brace, but he scored against Arsenal and he got maximum bonus. I got Mbeumo way before most and kept bad fix. My best ever gut feeling in UCL Fantasy was buying Fermin Lopez. I saw him in the lineup. I had a good feeling about him. Great price tag. And I just bought him. He scored a hat-trick in the early kickoff. So that's the best one, period, I think. In terms of FPL, maybe captaining Vardy against Arsenal when he got 15 points is probably up there. So I put my feelings aside for Arsenal. I'm like, you know what? Just give me some points. If I'm going to suffer as an Arsenal fan, let me just get something out of it. Not like I want to profit from Arsenal's failure. Never. But it's just like a way of diluting the pain, if you will. I want to play, but I don't have Netflix and cannot pay for Netflix. It's just stupid, though, to do that sort of thing. But there you go. FM is in the mud. Might have been a transfer too. Yeah, buying Dennis for a double gimmick, right? And then he gets sent off in the first one. Fun times. Like FPL is free and everyone can play, says Easy. Man, Bruno was peak around 2021 to 2023. Even just before that, though, I think when he first joined, he was on fire. And he got a lot of penalties. Bruno Penandes. Hey, listen, I'm around Hamilton's age. I can still press buttons in FPL. Yeah, I just think like in racing, for example, we saw with Schumacher where he retired in 2006, then he came back in 2010, and whilst it's a different car, they were building, and ultimately he laid foundations for Mercedes to be the best team for years. Yeah, it wasn't good enough to win races and stuff, but he was getting outperformed by Rosberg. Does that mean Rosberg's better than Schumacher? No chance in hell. Hamilton is definitely the go of F1 though. No, he's not. Having the most wins, having the most titles, yeah, it gives you a great debate, a great chance, but very difficult to compare him to Fangio of the 50s, Jim Clark, all these great drivers in the past, Senna, Prost. And by the way, Prost is very, very underrated, and Schumacher. I think in terms of ability, in terms of extracting everything from the car, consistency, qualifying, racing, mentality, yeah, for me, Schumacher's the best that I've seen. Hamilton is a great driver. I understand why people think he's the best or one of the best, but yeah, I think Schumacher, Senna, Fangio, that'll be my top three. And I think Prost should be in the top 5 conversation as well. Best ever Schumacher, but in the days of Senna and Mansell, a lot closer in terms of cars and so many legends racing each other. That's what I mean. Even in the early 90s, you would have a podium of Senna, Schumacher, and Prost. That's incredible. That would have been mainly in 1994. Yeah, I agree. Don't clap when coming on, unless a total legend, maybe. Exactly. If we were like 4-0 up, then yeah. Because then you're like, surely we don't fumble this now. Well, yeah. Banjo says, starting a channel, 14 years, I've been a creator on YouTube. Well, technically, I also had a channel for years. I even posted content a long time ago about like gaming and stuff like that. That was like in 2010. You would not have expected the content I posted. And I also had another channel earlier when I was like 7, 8 years old. But all the content is not available now. I should have kept them. At least, had them private or something. But like an idiot, I deleted everything. Bruno has been so consistent even when United have been terrible. He has been brilliant for them, no doubt. Yeah, I just think he's a bit frustrating as an FPL asset. So yeah. Prost was amazing. My first favourite driver was Mansell. Yeah, I mean, for me, my favourite was Schumacher. And that's when he was winning everything. That's when I was kind of growing up. So that also plays a big part in how you perceive these things. But yeah. The same goes for Federer in tennis. And for me, he's still the greatest player. Is Verstappen greater than Hamilton? Not yet, no. I think in terms of like at his age, I think Verstappen's better, but Hamilton still has the whole career to go back off. People are already saying Verstappen best ever. I think that's a stretch too far. But what I have said for years, even before his first title win, is that he reminds me a lot of Schumacher in terms of driving style. And that's why he's my favourite right now. Yeah, exactly that. I think it's too early to say Verstappen's better. I prefer Verstappen because of the style. And by the way, Hamilton is, I like his style as well. And he's like a bit like Prost, maybe you could say, calculated. He'll have a few moments, especially in like 2011 where he kept crashing into Massa and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. It might seem crazy for me to say this, but I just love that sort of pure aggressive racing style. Just like going for any single space, a bit like Senna and all these drivers. So that's why I gravitate towards Verstappen. Alonso's one of the best ever, but spent so long at poor teams. Yes. I think a key difference between him and Hamilton is that his decision-making has been quite poor throughout his career. Hamilton made great decisions, joining McLaren, then going to Mercedes. I think Jeremy Clarkson compared it as like leaving United for West Ham. Well, that's kind of what he did in a way, you could say, but he hit the jackpot. Any interest besides sports, Dylan? No, not really. But I just think about sports. Yeah, films, shows. I've been watching anime recently. I even got an anime shirt here. Yeah, I've got plenty of interest. I used to read a lot of books, and I'll try to get back to it very soon. I hope Piastri turns the papaya rules into maroon rules. Yeah, I'll be honest. If I had to pick a driver, it's Piastri. I think he's a better one than Norris, and yeah, I think McLaren are favouring Norris a lot, and that kind of puts a lot of people off from supporting him. So I would prefer Piastri if I had to pick a McLaren driver. Thank you very much, 00. Best of luck for the game week. Hopefully not the YouTube username factoring into our FPL points. But the season where they made decisions which allowed for easy Verstappen win was totally wrong. Yes, Verstappen should have won anyway that year, but it was wrong and ruined the whole season. Damaged the sport as well. Yeah, I've said that before. So I feel like the FIA and also like the... what was it? I can't remember the name. Well, it's Michael Massey, but I can't remember the race director. Yeah, it was such like commotion and drama. It was very fabricated, very like Drive to Survive sort of thing. And yeah, the last lap thing, yeah, that's like made out of a movie. If you saw that in Brad Pitt's F1 film, you would have been surprised by that. I feel like early in the season, Hamilton and Mercedes were getting benefit a little bit. And then you had like a few crashes, like Bottas going into Verstappen the week after Silverstone. So I felt like Verstappen over the course of the year deserved that win. But the way it happened in the last lap and in that race where Hamilton was the better driver in Abu Dhabi, he deserved to win that race. And that would have meant winning an 8th championship. Yeah, I mean, also I wanted Verstappen to win, but the way it happened, yeah, I mean, I think we all know how it did. But then people like hate on Verstappen for it. Like, can you really blame him? I mean, you could say that about like United back in the day with referees. Do you hate United or the referees? Well, I hate both, maybe here. Let's not even talk about that. Let's tune into the United game against Tottenham. That's happening in 30 minutes time. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit that notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Keep your eyes peeled over the international break, mainly the week after this one, for more Game Week 12 content, and also Matchday 5 videos and live streams for UCL Fantasy. So a lot is headed your way, and the plan is to do a reaction stream and maybe record one video before my holiday. What's your all-time favorite anime, Dylan? Well, I think Attack on Titan is the best one, and that's also the first one that really got me into it, and that was only last year, so I'm quite new to the scene. But if I had to add another name to the list that's quite maybe low-key, it's probably Monster. I love that one, and I also got the first manga. Yeah, that's probably my favorite alongside Attack on Titan. I made this account when I was 10, ignore the name. Well, you can change it though. You actually can. Not saying you should, by the way. What? Wait, sorry, massage lawsuit? I'm guessing that means something else. Regarding the PK deliberate crash, full of injustice. Yeah, I just didn't get the first part, and to be honest with PK and his era with the 80s, I'm not too familiar. I'm not like Sebastian Vettel, who is an absolute nerd for F1, which I do appreciate. Yeah, thank you, 00. That is the plan. If possible, I will record it on Sunday. But yeah, definitely keep your eyes peeled for the reaction stream. That's either tonight or tomorrow, and Saturday night is the most likely. Is Brad Pitt F1 better than... yeah, to be honest though, the F1 film has good reviews, and I don't know what else you referred to that at the end of the comment, which is the joke, so sorry about not getting it, but yeah, I think that film is very generic. It's not a great film. To be honest, it's not a good film as well, in my opinion. I agree, I feel like that decision was a fix, must have been money in it somewhere. Yeah, and also you had the two team principals, Toto Wolff and Christian Horner, always putting pressure on Michael Massey, so it's just like, it's good for the drama and like the entertainment, but it's not good in terms of making the right decisions. It was so horrible to watch, and Hamilton on old tires was painful. Like, yeah, you knew what was going to happen. The only surprising thing was that Verstappen passed him that early. You know, he made that lunge into one of the first few corners of the lap. But passing the field, total bull. Sorry, it's a typo. That should say Massa, not massage. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. There was Crashgate as well in like 2008. That's another thing. Okay, sorry. When you said PK, I'm automatically assumed Nelson PK. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't actually aware of that. Film with Farrell in it, says Twisted Parky. With Farrell? Yeah, I forgot about who's actually in it. I mean, Brad Pitt is obviously the main star, but yeah, I can't lie. It was a bit of a disappointing film, in my opinion, but it still gets a lot of love. People say it's the best sports film ever, one of the best racing films ever anyway. I'm not sure I agree, but thank everyone for tuning in. I've been going live for over 3 hours, and I appreciate all the support from the super chatters, members, patrons, subscribers, likers, all that good stuff. I'll see you very soon for the reaction stream. Take care, enjoy the football. All the best of luck for Game Week 11 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you very soon for the reaction stream.